What's up, everyone? It's the interview queen Alicia Toot here, and be sure to watch Tru Heel Heat.
Oye, te habla tío Sabio Vega. This is Sabio Vega, and you watching Tru Heel Heat a mi manera o pa' la calle.
Well, what do we got over here? Bada boom, Real's one in the room. How you doing? You are listening. Big boobs, huh? And you are listening to Tru Heel Heat. How you doing?
Check the sound skin. New York, we know where we at. We on the East Coast, but we from the West Coast. But it's all love, dog. Tru Heel Heat. Yee.
Hey, you fucked it all up.
Yo, what up? You know what it is. It's your boy AJ Francis reporting to you live from New York City, the birthplace of hip-hop. And I'm telling you that I'm only tuned in with Tru Heel Heat Wrestling. Holla at me.
What's going on, everybody? This is your former AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Once a champion, always a champion. Swerve Strickland. Whose house? Swerve's house. You're watching Tru Heel Heat podcast.
Mustard! Turn the TV on because it's Saturday morning. You know what time it is. It's time for the Saturday morning cookout. The Tru Heel Heat flagship. Hold on. Got a phone call. Oh, Drake suing me? Oh, shit. All right, just start the intro. I can't say anything else. Hello, Hello. It is me, your Tru Heel Phenom SP3. We are live on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for Tru Heel Heat 305 Absolute Pettiness. Discussing the latest wrestling news, including AEW pulling Ricky Starks from GCW appearances and extending his contract, the conflicting reports regarding Jade Cargill and whether she is injured or not, recap of this week in wrestling with AEW Full Gear featuring Kyle Fletcher defeating Will Ospreay in another instant classic, Dynamite featuring the start of the AEW Continental Classic, ROH TV, WWE SmackDown featuring Roman Reigns sitting down with Paul Heyman and CM Punk ahead of War Games, Raw featuring the New Day dissension hitting the boiling point, NXT, NJPW World Tag League, TNA Turning Point, plus much more, and final predictions for WWE Survivor Series War Games tonight. And of course, we are joined by our trio of hosts here. First up, the beautiful, the lovely princess of all the Tru Heels, Miss Krssi Love. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good morning, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon. Happy late Thanksgiving if you had a Thanksgiving, friends. But yeah, happy holidays. What's happening? It's that time of the year, and it's cold in New York, friends. How are you all doing?
It is very cold in New York, but
it was hot last weekend, and we had rain all last weekend, and then they was like, "Yeah, we got one up for you guys now. Don't get used to this niceness. We're gonna shit on you," and
it's like,
that's
take that.
Yep.
We also got the true draw himself, Josh. How are you doing?
This is how I'm doing.
Hey, look at double trouble there. What are you doing? Oh, so adorable. You be living the life, sir. You're living the best life ever. Double dog dad over there. Thanks for joining us. Yep. Today, we appreciate y'all if you're joining us live. Appreciate y'all if you're watching us on demand. Remember to show your appreciation back the simplest way possible. Let's drop the thumbs up on this video. You can share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you're new to the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. And of course, if you're watching us on demand, you can leave a comment down below. Let us know what you thought about this week's flagship podcast. But of course, if you're watching us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you can sound off in the live chat. We love to interact with all of you guys. Here are your thoughts on this week in pro wrestling. We'll try to highlight as many of your comments as possible. But of course, if you're feeling generous, you want to give back to what we do here, you want to show your support to the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel in the best way possible, you can send a super chat donation. Any dollar amount matters. It goes back to the contributors that you see on screen with us here. And we always appreciate the support. We got Eric Isaac in the chat joining us today saying, "Hey, THH fam, happy War Games Day. Happy birthday to the goddess of glow, Naomi." And Matt Riddle is in the impact zone. Indeed. We also got I Make Beats, one of our members of the channel. You can become a member by hitting that join button. $1 a month gets you in-chat perks and exclusive content. We got I Make Beats who says, "What's good, people across the pond? THH bringing the world together. Happy War Games."
Happy War Games, yep.
We also got I Make Beats and Power Driver Finisher who says, "Mustard." Been loving all the memes.
Oh, yeah, the DJ Mustard? Oh, man. Him and Kevin Hart are like idiots.
What did Kevin Hart do? I didn't even know.
They on the what's that guy that be on the streams? Was it Kai Key? What's his name?
Kai Sen.
Yes.
Kai Sen.
So he had like a sleepover, right?
Oh, Kai Sinet?
Yes. He had a sleepover and DJ Mustard and Kevin Hart was there. Pure laughs. Like crying. Like it's just Kevin Hart is an asshole. And so is DJ Mustard.
So is Kai.
So is Kai. Like you put all three of them together, it's a disaster. Thank you. I Make Beats. Yes, that's him.
There we go. There we go. We also got in the chat. Power Driver Finisher says perfect intro. Tried my best. Always think about how I can entertain y'all with these intros, and seemed like a perfect week to say that Drake sued you because.
Oh my God, that is the most
Crashing.
Karenest move ever. Such a Karen, such a damn Karen, man.
This is one of the all-time greatest crash outs in music history, not just hip hop history.
Like you're such a sore loser. Like now you want to you lost. Just take your L fair and square. Now you want to blame it on streams. Like, bro, come on.
UMG was working against me. They was putting out lies against me. I don't know why he would say such a thing. It's not like I said that he was beating his wife.
Just say you want to sue for defamation. Don't say you want to sue because you lost the streams, dummy. But whatever.
Double down. He going double down on taking this L. This is one of the biggest L's in music history.
Biggest.
But we're going to start off every flagship podcast, as we always do, with our Tru Heel roll call, shouting out all of you supporting us across social media and our Patreon page, our top 3 conversation starters over on our Tru Heels group page on Facebook. You got Jermaine Packman. You got number 2, the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting, and number 1, Stewie Palmer. Our Patreon backers, you got Vala B, you got Alan Weinstein, Negro Buck Nick Jackson, Alex McCarthy, Professor Chris, Trey, Robert, Steve, Ladarius, Russell Scopes, Dan, Kobe, Dolores, John Martin, DJ Eric, Marcus, James, Alan, and Santo. Thank you so much for supporting us over at patreon.com/Tru Heel Heat. Always appreciate you guys with all of that you contribute over there. Helps us keep the channel running. But let's get into what we missed this week. And we got to start all the way back from last Saturday on, because last Saturday, Krssi Josh was AEW Full Gear 2024 with the show featuring in the main event Jon Moxley defeating Orange Cassidy in an awesome encounter to retain the AEW World Title thanks to an assist from Wheeler Yuta. Post-match, you had Moxley and Yuta pouring chemicals on top of Orange Cassidy to write him off until Hangman Adam Page came down and hit Wheeler with a steel chair. He stared down with Jon Moxley, but that was all to distract Moxley from Christian Cage coming in and hitting the kill switch, who was handed his AEW World Title contract by Hangman before leaving. But this led to Switchblade Jay White stopping Christian from cashing in until the Death Riders attacked White from behind. Moxley and the Death Riders left the building, only for Darby Allin to crash into their truck with a car to close the show, bleeding and telling Moxley to come back. Bobby Lashley beat Swerve Strickland in a very good bout. We also had Mercedes Moné have arguably her best match of the AEW run so far, defeating Chris Statlander in an excellent match to retain the TBS Championship. Sticking with the women's division for a second here, you had AEW Women's World Champion Mariah May turned on Mina Shirakawa, who saw it coming, though, and speared her former friend off the stage through a table, bloody mouth and all. You had Daniel Garcia beat Jack Perry in a pretty good match to win the TNT Championship. His friend's Private Party retained the AEW World Tag Team Championships against the Kings of the Black Throne, Outrunners, and Acclaimed. On the 0 Hour pre-show, you had Big Boom AJ beat QT Marshall in a pretty fun bout. Back on the main card, MJF defeated Roderick Strong in a good match. Post-match, MJF Pillmanized Roddy's arm until Adam Cole ran down and made the save, but this did not stop Kyle O'Reilly from pushing down Cole and blaming him for the attack on Roddy. Konosuke Takeshita defeated Ricochet in a great bout to retain the AEW International Championship. Switchblade Jay White, he picked up the win over Hangman Adam Page in what was a great match, another great match between those two. Post-match, Hangman attacked Switchblade as well as Christopher Daniels. And then finally, Finally, you had Kyle Fletcher picked up the biggest win of his career in an absolutely spectacular bout against Will Ospreay, featuring one of the most vicious tombstones onto the steel steps you will ever see, and really making Kyle Fletcher into a star with the victory here. So all in all, I thought Full Gear was a very good show. But like I said last week, I feel like I'm in a very toxic relationship where I expect my boyfriend got paid. I expect we had a good weekend, but I don't know what I'm gonna get in between the week. I don't know what I'm gonna get week to week, depending on how his job is going. That's how I feel with AEW right now. But the pay-per-views, they never miss. What did you think about Full Gear overall, Miss Krssi Love, and what stood out?
Of course, the Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher stood out. Like, I mean, we kind of knew he was gonna put over his friend, but like in that kind of way was just like not what I thought we were gonna see. And I mean, wow, what a match of the night for me. But the whole pay-per-view was good though. It was long but good. But that's what they do. They give long pay-per-views. But it was a solid show. Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander. It took Chris Statlander to get that out of her.
I mean, maybe you could say that Chris Statlander got two of the best women's matches of the year between this and All Out.
Yeah. Who she did with All Out? Who did she go against
Willow.
All Out? Willow. Yes. Too. Yes, she did have yeah, that's true. Guess it's Chris. Just tells you about Chris Statlander then.
Born again Kristen. Yeah.
But no, overall solid show. I really enjoyed it. From the matches were great. But yeah, like you said, we're in just a toxic relationship where it's just like we're good on the weekends, but during the week you don't want to be bothered with me. It's like Scissor.
Josh, yeah, pretty much.
Just like that Scissor song.
Josh, any overall thoughts on the Full Gear show? You were on our review with us. We appreciate you for that. But any additional thoughts a week later?
No, I think I pretty much stuck to what I felt about the show. I thought the show was great. Wasn't really a bad match. And then even the match that was like considered maybe the weakest was still a good match. So I mean, it was a solid card overall. The only discourse that I've seen is like the ending, like the overbooked angle, which I think is two things, right? I think two things could be true, right? I think something could be overbooked, but I think something that was also needed because with the angle of Death Rider, they were missing on the opposite end. They were kind of missing top stars for the angle to work, and they did that in one scoop. So yeah. Angle was overbooked, but I think it did what it needed to do because now you have more heavy hitters involved in the angle, and that was kind of one of the complaints about it. When you're kind of having this angle where you're like so-called taking over the company and you're just fighting mid-card guys, it's not gonna really do much. But then when you get Hangman involved and you get Jay White involved and you get Christian Cage involved because he still has his contract. I thought it was a solid move when it comes to like where they're going moving forward when it comes to all that stuff. So I mean that was my initial thought. Overall I thought it was a great show.
Yeah, I did too. But I don't think that the Moxley and Death Riders angle is quite as over as they need it to be kind of like the cornerstone storyline. I do like the intent of putting some top stars in the angle, like Christian Cage, Hangman Adam Page, and Jay White. But I think the real issue here is that it's not connected to anything else. Everything in AEW feels like it's on its own universe. We got over here, it feels like we're in the brain of Riley in Inside Out. And you got Adventureland over here. Adventureland is where, the Death Riders are taking over everything. Then we have here on Friendship Land, we have the Hurt Syndicate and everything that's going on with Swerve Strickland. Then over here, we got Hockey Land with the Undisputed Era feuding with MJF. We got over here Mercedes Moné and whatever the hell she's doing with Camille. Then over here, there's Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa with a timeless Tony Storm that's flying in overhead. It's just like it's all different universe. And I think that the key to why WWE storytelling has gotten so connective and it's gotten really cleaned up is because everything kind of flows through each other. Everything's kind of connected to each other. Like the reason why the Bloodline storyline has become the centerpiece of WWE is due to how many different other characters or storylines have basically spawned from the Bloodline storyline. Without the Bloodline storyline, we don't get Drew McIntyre turning heel. If not the Bloodline storyline, then we don't get Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. Without the Bloodline storyline, you really don't get Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins and stuff like that. You don't get Sami Zayn and the journey to the Intercontinental Championship. You don't get Jey Uso, who's arguably the most popular babyface in the company, and his whole quest to get the Intercontinental Championship. You don't get the Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes storyline that's going on right now. Like this is all stemming from one storyline. And that all that connective tissue that it has to that you don't have that with the Death Riders. And I said it last week. They could have took steps to fix that with like anything that's going on with the Undisputed Era instead of Kyle O'Reilly saying, "Hey Cole, you're too focused on MJF. You need to stop hurting your friends." Say, "You're too focused on MJF. You need to focus on these motherfuckers who are taking over the company and the world title that you seemingly always won." He's held by the guy who said he's going to tear down this company that you also said you love so much. Like, let's connect some of this stuff together. This all separate universe shit, it's too much. It's too much. And that's why a lot of people fall out of viewership week to week because they can't follow along with everything.
I mean, yeah, you're supposed to be like the detective that have all of the red lines connected to everything, and you're trying to like kind of like sync everything in. I think that's where everyone loses or has their like frustration with AEW. I mean, they love the product, they give good matches, but where's the connection? How are we supposed to connect? Where are the stories? And I think we've been saying this quite a while now, and I guess Tony really doesn't give a shit. So why should we?
He's just gonna ignore us. He's like,
he's gonna keep ignoring us. I feel like once he gets like the right, he has.
I think for me, it's more of honestly. I don't think it's so much of the connecting when it comes to that. I think it's more for me. The whole Death Rider thing is that if you're gonna take over a company, lean to that. Don't try to tease it and do certain things, and then it just doesn't feel that way. I think that's where it falls.
You have to affect other storylines. Like
no,
the reason why the Elite early storyline was effective. Because they were
I get that, but then also,
they were involved all over the card. Like, if
I'm saying, like I get what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that if there was to capitalize on that more, then maybe that could also work on, like that could also help what you just said. But because they're not doing that, that's why it kind of feels like, I don't want to say stuck, but if you're saying that you're kind of teasing this whole takeover thing and is not feeling that way, then obviously there's a disconnect when it comes to that. So I think that's something that they have to fix on. I think once they fix on that, then maybe by fixing that first, then that would lead to what you were talking about with everything else connecting. At least to me. Because that's how I felt. I was like, yeah, they're doing solid stuff, but then it's like with the whole like angle, right? Like I think they're doing solid stuff, but then it's like, all right, where's this going? Like, and this is what I told you a while ago. And it's not like this is I told you this before. I was like, yeah, they're doing solid stuff, but then it's like, what's the end goal when it comes to all of this? Like I questioned it. And like they've gotten a little bit better, but it's still one of those things where it's like, all right, motherfuckers, like you're gonna tell me you're gonna take over, just take over. That's what I'm basically waiting for when it comes to that.
Yeah, I just think they are not going about this the right way, and they either need to cut bait or just try something new. Or
Or
just make
yeah,
it more
or
connected and push them throughout the entire show. Stop making it just one segment of the Death Riders. They're never going to feel like they're taking over the show if we only see them in one section of the show. And I forgot to mention the land where Will Ospreay is feuding with Kyle Fletcher. That's a separate universe as well.
yeah, but then like,
That is true because it's not over.
yeah, like
It's
that's
not over.
what
That's gonna be continuing in its own universe. And Will Ospreay, one of the top stars, isn't gonna address the fact that the AEW World Title is being held by someone who wants to tear down the company that he loves so much.
Yeah, because he's so busy with Dom and trying to get revenge, and it's probably not going to happen anytime soon.
And Swerve Strickland, who feels like Hangman screwed him out of the AEW World Championship. He's not focused on the AEW World Title, despite being one of the few guys in this company that has gone toe-to-toe with Jon Moxley, that has beaten members of the Death Riders. He's just on his own universe with Hurt Syndicate, not getting involved. Not going to get involved in that. No crossover. So it's harder to get connected into where we are going to look forward, like Krssi said, we are going to look forward to the great matches on pay-per-view and then throughout the Continental Classic, but we're not going to be fully invested the way we should because they're not taking the steps to present it in a way that we should get invested in. They're not trying to get us hooked in and kind of act like we're watching something week to week that's progressing. It really hasn't with the Death Riders. The peak really was the first week after the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But then also, I think what it is too is that because what we heard a while back is that Moxley has a heavy influence on the storyline. You probably might need to don't want to say, how do you say, right? I think there needs to be more input when it comes to that. I think somebody else needs to get involved and say, hey, you should do it like this, instead of like leaving it to one person and having one person's vision, because that person's vision could be good, right? In their mind, it's good, but then on the broader audience, it's kind of like, what's going on, right? I think that's one of the things too, that they also like, if you feel like the storyline needs to progress, get somebody else involved. I don't think there's something wrong with that, right? Like they could put input, and then we've seen it with WWE all the time, right? Like we're, like what happened with Bloodline, right? Bloodline was going well, and then they did certain things, they tweaked it. Some people had certain influences, and the storylines got better. And I think that's something that they should consider more in AEW as well, right? Because we always hear about like, oh, the talent have creative control and all this stuff, right? Where the talent could feel like they're having a good vision, but then sometimes it doesn't connect. Usually if you have like that one person behind the scenes or like in the creative team should get involved, because it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I think everybody just needs to work together.
I just think that there's just an overarching kind of issue with the creative for AEW right now. And, I'm just using kind of the Death Riders as an example of that. But yeah, I just think the Death Rider storyline, it has potential and they could still turn it around. It's just not in the best place right now. And it's made on shaky ground to begin with, because AEW, if you are the second biggest promotion and you're clearly number two, and struggling in a lot of places, whether it be ticket sales, whether it be TV ratings, whether it be the amount of stars that you have over right now. Whatever it is, whatever you want to say is AEW's biggest issue. I think a bigger issue overall with what I watch week to week is there's way too many people who are on the roster who tell me that AEW sucks. Like, how many times on an episode of Dynamite do we hear Jon Moxley be like, I hate AEW. I hate what AEW's become. You got MJF, who calls it a dog shit company and that he left to go make movies. Like, that was twice on this week's show alone. It's just week after week we hear about, oh, we got to restore the feeling. And AEW is this, AEW is that. Like, you make it sound like it's a Make-A-Wish kid with all of that shit. Like it's way too much. That is not the perception you want to put out there. And I'm just keeping the same energy because I said the same thing about WWE back in 2018, 2019, when they went out and said, yeah, our product sucks. Let's blame Baron Corbin. That's the same shit they were doing. And they learned from that. So now I need AEW to learn that lesson. Don't tell your audience that you suck.
I mean, right. If the people that work there don't believe in the product, I think what you're saying is, why should we? Is that what you're getting at?
No, I'm saying if you are struggling in places, don't say you suck. Like, I'm sorry. If you're a losing basketball team and the coach comes in and is like, hey guys, we suck, so we're gonna lose the next 2 games. That's basically what AEW tells their audience all the time, is that, hey, we suck, but we're gonna turn it around. We're gonna restore the feeling. This is pretty simple. That's all I want. I want them to just stop. That's step 1. We can go through all the other steps, but they need to get past step 1 of stop saying you suck so much. But
I mean, true.
What does suck is AEW outside of their TV product this week, because our top story, it has to do with the interesting controversy and drama surrounding Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks made a surprise appearance at last Saturday's GCW Dream On event. It was his first wrestling appearance since March. Starks has been absent from AEW TV since the March 30th episode of Collision, when he and Big Bill lost to the Top Flight in the AEW World Tag Team Title Tournament. At the time, it was thought that he suffered an injury, but he later tweeted that he was fine. The GCW event, Starks arrived by coming down an escalator at the venue, the American Dream Mall in East Rutherford, New Jersey. He interrupted Broski Jimmy, who was trying to introduce Matt Cardona. He said he was nervous when he defeated CM Punk to win the Owen Hart tournament in 2023 because he didn't think people would care. He said they proved him wrong then, and they did so again with their reaction to his GCW arrival. He said he was 34 and healthy and wasn't going to be, quote unquote, be frozen out or sit out and let his career dwindle. He said he planned to start over from the beginning at GCW and then gave Broski Jimmy a spear before leaving. According to Fightful Select, Starks was then backstage at AEW Full Gear, which was also in Jersey. In a separate update from Fightful Select, Starks is reportedly still under contract with AEW at the moment. According to the report, Starks isn't currently factoring into any AEW creative plans or pitches while he remains under contract. Starks hasn't appeared on AEW TV since March. Numerous AEW sources indicated to Fightful that the company had an option year in the spring of 2024 on Starks, which was reportedly picked up. This extends his contract to the spring or summer of 2025. Before AEW picked up the option on his contract, it's rumored that Starks was hopeful to test the open market. Additionally, there appear to be no plans in AEW involving Starks at the moment, and despite AEW renewing his contract earlier this year. Fightful also notes that Starks' attendance backstage at Full Gear was said to be welcomed. Ricky Starks was then a guest on Insight with Chris Van Vliet, the interview dropping on Tuesday, where he discussed his current AEW status. On his absence this year from AEW TV, he says, March was my last match. I've been home. I've been healthy. Never was injured. I did have a stinger. I got a stinger in that match against Top Flight in March. I got immediately checked out and everything was fine. But I was just concerned at the time. So that happened and then I was just home. That's kind of where it's been at. I've been at home. It's kind of a mind fuck because I'm in my prime and it sucks when you're on such a momentum, riding the wave, doing work and doing stuff. And then to just be at home for so long, you're kind of like, whoa. It kind of throws it off. I am not meant to be at home. I'm not meant to be a homebody. In this current phase of my life, I'm not meant to be just chilling at home and doing not the thing that I've been busting my ass to do for the past 13 years. On not knowing why he hasn't been booked, he says, it beats me. I could have 1,000 theories about what's really going on. The fact of the matter is that if I don't have a definitive answer, I can't just make up an answer for people and just assume. Would I love to know the exact reason? For sure. Do I have my speculation about why? Absolutely. But that does nothing to speak on things that I speculate. Does nothing for the situation. So I think it's just a matter of it sucks. It's been a very cold day here in Austin. It's been a very cold day. May have been cold for the past 9 months. Not sure, but thankfully I have a sweater and I'm always ready to keep the warmth going. On Tuesday, it was then revealed that Ricky Starks was pulled from his upcoming GCW appearances. GCW took to Twitter to announce that Starks has been pulled from 3 upcoming shows. They said, and I quote, "We have just been informed that Ricky Starks has been pulled from all upcoming GCW appearances, including his announced match on December 14th in Los Angeles, his unannounced match on December 28th in Seattle, and his unannounced match on January 19th at the Hammerstein Ballroom." Fightful Select reports that according to GCW sources, AEW pulls Starks from the appearances with the decision having been made on Tuesday and relayed to Starks. The site says, according to sources, the decision was made in part because of comments made by Effie towards Shad Khan, Tony Khan's father. There's no context on those comments as of yet, but that was the report on Tuesday. All of this came to fruition on Tuesday. The CVV interview, as well as Ricky Starks being pulled from his GCW appearances. And all in all, I just feel bad for Ricky Starks because Ricky did nothing wrong here. Nothing he said in the CVV interview should have got him pulled from any independent shows where he's missing a payday. And the fact that they pulled him and they still have no intention of putting him on TV. This is really, this might be one of the worst perception moves of Tony Khan's run as the owner of AEW. And I think the only one that is probably above that one is the decision not to do something about CM Punk following Brawl Out. I think only to that is this like number 2. But this is just a real bad perception move because if you're not using Ricky Starks and you're pulling him from indie shows because of something petty that he did not say and neither did the owner of the company, it's just a bad move overall for AEW, and they look like very, very petty and childish individuals in all of this. Josh, what do you think about this whole Ricky Starks situation?
I don't know. I'm pretty mixed about it. I don't 100% feel the same way that you feel about it because I still believe GCW still has some fault to it. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, you know, GCW hasn't had the best reputation in a while. You know, there are things that they have done and have said that kind of makes them look weird. Just because like on the independent scene, I know more about that stuff than anything. But in regards to before I say anything, like, you know, it sucks for Ricky. Like it sucks that he's basically the casualty in all of this because it doesn't benefit him. And that's why it's a weird move because I was like, damn, he has some buzz and, you know, put him back on the sidelines because of that. And I feel like there was a situation that was going on he was gonna do his appearances on GCW and that will be his way to get back on TV. But now you do that, now you take away his appearances. Now it's kind of like, okay, what do you do from here, right? So that's the main thing. I'm like, yeah, he's the one that loses the most out of all of this because he was about to come back, right? He wants to wrestle, and then boom, pull him back. In regards to the actual move on AEW's part, I did find it questionable because even I said it. Even I was like, don't you think that's sus that, Ricky cut his promos on Saturday at the Dream On show, and then he has the interview. He says what he says, which I don't think it was terrible. The only part I thought that was like kind of funny and made him was kind of like, was the Adam Copeland stuff. At the same time, Copeland does look stupid on that situation himself because it was just a cringy moment, and Ricky being a heel did his job, and that what happened. It doesn't make Ricky look bad. The interview itself didn't really make Ricky look bad, in my opinion. There was a lot of people who disagreed with that, and I was just kind of like, oh, but he's saying what he's saying. Like, he didn't bury the company. He just said, hey, I would like to know why I'm not on TV. And maybe
that's a legitimate question, though. Like,
right, and maybe there's a part of us that we don't know what's really going on. Like, maybe he does know, but he's not going to say it, right? That's a possibility. But he didn't bury the company. I think if he would have shit on the company and then he actually knows why the reason is, then obviously Ricky will look like a bigger dickhead than anything, right? Because the information, you just didn't put it out there, and then you're burying the company. He didn't do that. In my opinion, like, he didn't do that. I didn't see nothing that was like, oh, all right. I think more of like the Dream On stuff. I thought that was more of like, I thought like that promo kind of put more light into anything than the interview, in my opinion, just because of his lines, and people clipped it, and people, like, oh, this is Ricky burying AEW and all this stuff. And I was like, he didn't really bury them either. People are just taking a line and running with it. Right? He just said he doesn't want to sit at home. That's not burying a company. He's just saying how he feels, and what we all been saying, right? We don't want him to sit at home. We want him to work. Like, so in regards to Ricky, I don't think Ricky did anything wrong, but it's also very questionable that they did pull him after that interview. And I'm just like, maybe it was just a timing, but to me, I was like, this shit don't look right. And I was just like, damn. Don't tell me it was because of that interview. Because originally, I thought it was because of the interview. And then I would have been like, damn, that's fucked up. And then it turns out that it was what Effie said, right? And even that, I was kind of like, but he said that a week ago. Like, he said that a week ago. And before anything, SB3 is my witness. I was the one that was questioning this too. So I was like, that happened like last week. And I was just like, don't you think like that's weird? And then, somebody else said like it's possible that he didn't see it, and he probably didn't get informed until now about it, which is possible. But I was just like, that shit was like all over. Like, I thought I was like everywhere. People were clipping it, and Effie himself clipped it. So obviously he wanted some attraction to that, right? Effie himself clipped it himself from his own podcasting to show it, and he was sharing it. In regards to what he actually said, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, they were petty for what they did, AEW. At the same time, I guess business-wise, it's one of those things where it's like, if I run a company and I lend you somebody that works for me, and then you go, somebody in your area says something about like either the company or by myself or a personal thing, then it's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do now? Like, if I don't do anything, I look like a dickhead, right? I look soft. I'm not being a boss. And when it comes to Tony Khan, I think he's getting so much shit because now he's being a boss, regardless of what we want to say or not. Like, we disagree because, I kind of blame that. I mean, not really blame, but I think that kind of stems from the Ariane Hawani and CM Punk interview. They brought out that how TK doesn't want to be a boss. He doesn't want to do nothing. And now ever since then, he's changed. He's kind of been putting his foot down more on certain things. And I think this was kind of no different, even though I think this is kind of when it comes to the both situations where he did something, right? When it comes to the Lucha Bros and then when it comes to this, I think the Lucha Bros situation was more serious than the GCW situation, right? In my opinion, I think that was more serious because you had contracted talent who tried to leave and try to basically legally get a contract. In this situation, it was somebody who was on a podcast. They made some comments, talking shit about the company and bringing up TK's father in the backhanded comment, right? He wasn't like he brought up his dad and like talked shit about his dad. He just said like, hey, he pays his dad to stay away from the company. That's what he said.
No, he said his dad pays him to stay away from.
Yeah, stay away from the company. And it's just, I mean, in regards to Effie's comments themselves, I mean, that situation itself didn't make him look good. I know a lot of people gave him shit for it. A lot of people did give him shit for it last week when he said it before all this happened. And I think now it's more of like, I think it's been like mixed. I think there's people who were like, hey, GCW fucked around and found out. And then the other hand, people are upset. People are upset that Ricky got taken off, right? But I think it's more of, I think people just need to look at both sides of the situation, which I usually try to do my best.
People don't do that. That doesn't exist.
Right? I usually try to do I usually try to do my best because it's such a big, complicated situation that a lot of people don't really understand. They see it one way. They say, hey, Ricky Scott got pulled off. Oh, fuck you, TK. Fuck you for doing it. Right? That's what I've been seeing. Like, that's what I've been seeing. There was even a girl who tried to say, like, oh, who's softer in this situation? And she posted a picture of Drake and TK. Everybody still said Drake because everyone was like, the fuck? Like, why is this even a comparison? Like, it's like, but then when I looked at her Twitter, I was like, of course she's a fucking GCW stan. Like, that's why she's upset. And I was like, I get it, but at the same time, I think just people really need to look at they really need to be realistic on the situations, right? I don't agree with the fact that, yeah, Ricky Starks got pulled because it hurts Ricky Starks more than anything. At the same time, I think I kind of understand, and it's so fucking complicated. That's why it's kind of like I can't really pick a side. I can't really say this person is more wrong than the other. The only thing I can really say is like Ricky loses out in all of this. Pretty much. That's the only thing I can really say. It's such a fucking weird situation because, again, right, GCW hasn't had the best reputation in a while. Even Joey Janela himself has said it. Like, yeah, like like shit hasn't gone well for them. And, like even in Full Gear, there was I don't know if you saw it. There was a rumor that the GCW talent was handing out tickets because they're not doing well at the Hammerstein. Like, their ticket sales are not doing well at the Hammerstein, which I was like, wow, why I didn't believe it for a second because I was just like, that doesn't make any sense for them to do that because you hand out free tickets. Guess what? You're not making money. And GCW is in a situation where they need to make money because they're independent. So handing out free tickets doesn't benefit them. Yeah, you fill up a building, but if you're not
they were handing out flyers.
Yeah, and it was flyers. Like, and like I already knew it was flyers, but somebody like legit tried to like
make it seem like it's something else.
Yeah, and it was just weird to me. I was just like, why would somebody just fucking do that? That's just fucking stupid. And that would have been stupid on GCW's end. Like, say if it did happen. It just doesn't make any sense, right? And then even when I look at the trajectory of like what Effie said, Effie was basically upset that he thinks that AEW tried to take their momentum from the Hammerstein. I 100% don't believe that because I thought their ticket sales have been fairly well. The show's not until January, and they've sold about like 700 tickets for like they had, last time I checked, they had about 1,300 tickets available, which is not bad. Like 700 tickets,
over half.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I think what it is that GCW, they're in the place where they're not getting instant sellouts, right? Sometimes when you've been around for so long, you're not going to get that instant sellout anymore. Because we've seen it with WWE. WWE, they don't get instant sellouts. They still sell out. They don't get instant sellouts. And I think that if GCW was to focus more on like, hey, just build your card, do this and that, you're still gonna get people. You're still gonna get those fans. Like even if it's a week before, if you're gonna sell out the building, you're still gonna sell out the building. Especially in New York, I think they still do well. I just think there's a lot of pressure on GCW because their first Hammerstein show didn't do well. I mean, as in the card itself, like the show itself didn't do well, and they had like a weird perception that it kind of went down after that. I hope I'm not the only one that felt that way, where GCW kind of felt like it was the hottest thing, and then they kind of had like a big cool off period.
Are you saying they fell off, friend?
No, they didn't fall off. I don't think they fell off.
They did after the Hammerstein.
Well, yeah, you see, well, Sid is saying that. I kind of feel better. Yeah.
They were the hottest they ever
That's
were.
what it sounds like. You're trying to be nice and say, in a nicest way.
Yeah, because they still do well within their shows. They still,
Nick Gage was still a top star. Like they were going. And
he's not even with the company no more.
Exactly. He's not with the company no more. All the guys that were hot are not as hot as they were 3 years ago. Like that's why they made the whole big thing about them going back to Hammerstein Ballroom and that they were guilty of not having a good show. They literally promoted the fact they did not have a good show at the last Hammerstein show. Like GCW has got the momentum back, and they are still clearly the #1 independent promotion in the world. But I gotta kick back to what Josh said. I don't think they did anything wrong here. They did not do anything wrong because it's an independent promotion. This is not a freaking corporation or a business like a AEW or a WWE. This is someone that works the show. He gets paid his envelope at the end of the show. Who said something? Not the owner, not someone higher up in the company, not Ricky himself, but it was Effie. GCW did not do anything wrong in this situation. Ricky Starks did not do anything wrong in this situation. Yes, Effie said what he said, but Effie is not an owner of GCW. So
it's one of the wrestlers.
You're not
he's one of the wrestlers, but I think there's
killing Ricky Starks, Tony Khan is not penalizing the person who insulted him, who disrespected him. In Effie got an extra payday because he replaced Ricky Starks in one of his goddamn matches. You are literally benefiting Effie in this whole thing. Like, it's so stupid. It makes no sense for Tony Khan to do what he did. It just really comes off very petty. No, I'm not going to go as far as the stupid people being like, oh, you guys were all upset at Vince McMahon for 35 years for doing the same thing. But now you're not upset about Tony Khan.
Yo, that's the biggest thing that I've been seeing. Yo, like that's the thing that I've been seeing the most because I'm just like, oh my God. And then the fact that they're dragging in like the whole Ray Phoenix situation and Lucha Bros, it's just like, guys, shut the fuck up. Like,
they ain't got nothing. They're miserable people. They have nothing else to do.
No, but it's like people are trying to use this whole thing about like, the whole comparison, the Vince comparison thing was just fucking stupid. Obviously, I think it sucks because I'm like, if you notice, it's only kind of a Ricky Starks thing that I'm like, why did he just pull him? But then Mox showed up at Bloodsport, and obviously he's going to be doing more characters. And then nothing, and then he wasn't pulled, or he's not. They're not saying like, oh, no AEW talent could be used. It's just weird.
And Mox appeared with Marina Shafir, another star.
Yeah, and that's why. And that's why the whole situation, I think there's somebody who's not saying more than what's been going on. Like, I really want to believe that because I'm like, the whole thing doesn't really make any sense. Like, honestly, there's no fucking winners in this situation. I don't think AEW looks good in the situation. GCW is not in the best situation because obviously they said it on their like what Effie said was on their behalf. And this is something that he never
said it was on your behalf. And like I've seen this argument as well. Well, Effie is still representing GCW.
It's not like
but this is what you do. If you're Tony Khan and someone representing the company that you've been letting talent go work at says something insulting or disrespectful to you, you know what you do? You actually reach out to the goddamn company and you say, hey, I don't want Ricky Starks. I don't want Ricky Starks wrestling in the same match or even the same event that motherfucker is on. Because that's the only way you have plausible deniability, where you say, hey, I'm lending you Ricky Starks for X show, O show, and Z show. Effie can't be on any of those shows.
Because I don't want him messing up my brand. So I don't need this person.
And that's the thing that I wish.
Now that part, yes. If you're a boss, you should have done that.
If he did that, then I can understand the arguments of everybody being like, oh, Tony Khan's just doing what he needs to do business-wise. That's what he needed to do. What he's doing is penalizing Ricky and GCW's fans more than he's even penalizing Effie or GCW in general.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It's just, it's one of those things. The reason why I'm saying, like, I'm not saying so much that he represents GCW. I'm saying, like, because of the situation that what was said involved GCW. It's one of those things where, because the perception of GCW hasn't been the best, people just ran with it. And I'm like, that also doesn't help the situation as well, right? It's kind of like if something goes on with AEW, it's like what we spoke about, right? Something goes on with AEW, if there's one thing that goes wrong, people tend to go completely left and they run with it. With GCW, same thing has kind of been going on with GCW with certain things. And it's not fair to them. It's not fair to GCW, because I don't dislike Brett Lauderdale. Like, I've met him a few times and he's a really nice guy. And, you know, he even invited me to the, what was that show they did back in 2019? Battle New York or some shit like that, right? That was the show that they did. Like, all right, I think it was like Lost New York or Battle New York, where
Lost
it was in
New
New
York, I think it was.
Yeah, right. So I was there for that. He invited me for that because they were sold out. And then one of my boys was like, "Oh, I think I'll get you in." And then Brett was the one that approved it. So like, there's a good. Like, I have absolutely nothing against Brett. And Brett hasn't even said nothing himself about it. Like, he hasn't buried them, which I think is the best course he could do. That's the best course he could do, because the moment he burned his bridge,
he was on Body Slam, Krssi. He was on bodyslam.net on the Game Changer Weekly. He went on that same day that all this happened. He went on there. So that's why I'm very confused. Alexander Fitzgerald, you're one of my favorites in the chat. How the hell does GCW look bad in this situation? I don't think GCW did nothing wrong. Unless you're assuming or saying that GCW gave Ricky the promo to cut at GCW Dream On. GCW don't look bad in this situation. The two people that look bad in this situation is Tony Khan and Effie. That's it. And Effie looked bad before any of this whole started.
I think the only
because he sounded like a whole salty. He sounded real salty. I don't like Effie.
And that's why, you know, and that's why
been great to the independent business and GCW overall, but he sounded mad salty and jealous about the whole thing.
And honestly, when it comes to that itself, right? Like, if I was to really break that down, what he was upset about, it didn't make any sense why he was upset. Like, AEW announced they're going to Hammerstein after you guys announced it, but AEW already had this in place before you guys. Like, this was already set in motion. It wasn't, he tried to make it seem like, oh, we got the Hammerstein ballroom, we booked it, and now they're trying to bite off of us because now they're doing shows there. And I tell you this for a fact, right? AEW has 3 shows that whole weekend in the Hammerstein.
Thank you.
For the Hammerstein ballroom. It's not easy to get a full, like, to get one day in a Hammerstein is not easy. To get a full weekend, that takes months of like, all right, are you guys available or not? So AEW already had this in motion. With the whole thing with GCW, I think they got there sooner, like not sooner, but like later on, because this was something Brett was pushing, right? He kept asking, how do you guys would feel if we go back to the Hammerstein ballroom? And then all of a sudden, about a week later, it got announced, right? So his beef just didn't make any sense, because I'm just like, they're two GCW's audience and AEW's audience are kind of like different, because I've witnessed it myself. And it's just like, you're still going to get people in the building. And like I said before, 700 tickets, to 1,300 tickets available at the moment. The show's not until January. Like, you guys are fine. Like, you guys are in a good spot that you're still gonna do well. So I just didn't understand why. I don't know why he got salty about that, and it was a little weird. So I'm like, bro, I know you, and I know you're better than this, because like Effie was actually one of the talents that I did recommend when I used to work with Battle Club Pro. He was one of the guys that I did recommend, and he did end up working some of the shows for us. So like, I'm a fan of his work. I'm a fan of like when he speaks out. This situation though, I was just like, I don't know where you're going at, bro. Like, what's your beef with this? And it was just it was off-putting, just because I'm like, you're better than this. Like, I know you're outspoken, but I'm like, you just sound didn't make him look good. That's why people were kind of against him. And now, because when GCW got him, the whole thing that, we're pulling Ricky Starks, that's the only reason why you could say it makes GCW look bad, just because of that, but they didn't do anything. So I get Sid's point, like GCW didn't do nothing because Brett wasn't involved in that. What was said, he didn't do nothing. That's 100% understandable. I just think it's one of those things where, because you know how it is with wrestling fans, you know how it is on the broader audience, they don't really see detail. So if they see one thing, they're gonna run with it. They see, Effie works with GCW, he said this. Guess what? They fucked around and they found out. And I think that it's not really fair to them. It's not really a fair thing to them. And I think that's why discussions like this need to happen. And like, I think this is why it's a good thing that we have like podcasts like this, that we're not really running with a narrative, right? I think we're being fair in this situation, right? I think we're all, I think, in agreement. Like, there's some parties who look stupid, and I think we're all in agreement that it hurts Ricky the most, because he had some momentum. We finally got to see him, and took that shit away. That's not really fair to Ricky at all.
Nope.
Yeah. But all of that was said, and there's more to discuss from this whole situation.
What?
As AEW pulling Ricky Starks was said to be due to comments made by Effie about Tony Khan's father, Shahid Khan, after AEW booked shows at the Hammerstein Ballroom for their upcoming events in December. Effie said about the whole situation, Brett Lauderdale doesn't have a dad who pays him to stay away. This reportedly led to the decision to pull Starks from the GCW events. In an appearance on the latest Game Changer Weekly over on Bodyslam.net's YouTube channel, Lauderdale spoke about the situation and said that he's had no contact with AEW over what's going on. On Ricky Starks' contract status, he said it's a weird situation, because Ricky Starks is an independent contractor. This is a whole wrestling conversation that one of these days this is going to be tested and something is going to happen, because theoretically an independent contractor is independent and they can go and work wherever they want. In wrestling, these independent contractors don't seem to be very independent. They are at the whim of an employer, which makes it seem like they are an employee. It's above our pay grade. I'm just an indie wrestling company, and I don't have people under contract. These guys reach out to me. I like working with talented people, and I don't really get into their contract situation. If they can make it to the point where they can appear on my show, I am to assume that everything is cleared. People don't traditionally breach contracts on this level of wrestling. On AEW pulling Starks from the GCW events, he said, I found out about this the same time as everybody else did, for the most part. I've stated this many times before, and it's no secret. I don't have a line of communication with AEW. I never talked to Tony Khan on the phone or via text in my entire life. They don't talk to me, and I'm not trying to say that in a negative context, but I guess we've never really had to talk to each other. Anybody from AEW who has worked with us, that's been between me and the talent that to arrange it. If they need to get permission or something, they handle that on their own. In terms of this with Ricky Starks or anybody else from AEW, I don't really know a lot. I haven't heard about anybody else. I'm just hearing Ricky has been pulled, period. I haven't been on the phone with AEW where they've given me an explanation or asked me any questions or anything. I have no communication with AEW over this. I don't know where it goes beyond Ricky Starks. I don't know what the deal is. Of course, I've heard things. I've heard things in many directions. Without me hearing it directly from AEW, it's hard to tell what's real, what's not, and what people speculated or making shit up in many cases. On Effie's comments towards the whole situation, he said, what Effie says is Effie's opinion. And he isn't an independent, he is an independent wrestler, an independent contractor. He says stuff on his podcast, personal stuff, which is not endorsed or amplified or promoted by GCW. He is his own guy. He doesn't come to me and say, on this podcast, I'm going to talk about this and this. Is that okay with you? I don't review what he does. I have no control over Effie. He is absolutely independent, 100% through and through. He doesn't ask me. He doesn't have to ask me. He's a passionate person with opinions, and he feels very strongly about GCW. He is a GCW soldier, and sometimes he lets his emotions get the better of him. I don't think Effie wishes. He's just a passionate guy. I don't have too much of an opinion about what he said. I guess if you take it out of context, people can have different opinions on what he's saying. He's just one guy. There are lots of people out there who have stronger opinions than that on the wrestling business. Everyone has their opinion on everything. Ironically enough, though, Effie is replacing Ricky Starks in his scheduled matchup against Matt Cardona at GCW Highest in the Room 3. Starks was set to face Cardona at the December 14th show. GCW announced on Friday that Effie will replace him in the match. The show takes place in Los Angeles and airs on Triller TV+. Meanwhile, Ricky Starks has been booked for another independent promotion as he's heading to House of Glory in New York. But this event will take place in Chicago, and he will compete for the promotion's world title. House of Glory announced on Friday night that the AEW star will battle Mike Santana at the company show in Chicago on January 17th. The match will be Ricky Stark's first bout for the promotion.
Okay.
So I hope that clears everything up, hearing it from Brett Lauderdale's mouth. I'm glad that Brett did the interview when he did, because it squashed a lot of the different narratives and conversations that I saw going out there. But yet and still, some people didn't read his comments or didn't hear his comments and are still going on with their own evidence.
Yeah, I mean, and in regards to Brett, just because, you know, like, it's different the way that I take things, because I'm familiar with Brett on a personal level. I know how he is, and if he's saying like, "Hey, we never really spoken to AEW, I never really spoken to Tony Khan directly," then I can tell you for a fact, 99% sure that he's telling the truth when it comes to that. A lot of the bookings have been dealt with, like a lot of the talent. The only thing TK is involved with is just he's okay in it. Hey, I have a booking here. Is it all right? I could do it. Yeah, sure, you could do it. Like, basically, that's what TK's involvement is when it comes to all their independent bookings for the talent. And if they can't, you know, like if he needs them for TV, then obviously they'll either be pulled or they just won't get booked for that. It's happened a lot of times, even with the convention appearances. Hey, this person's needed on Collision. They got pulled. You know, it happens. That's just part of business. With what Brett said himself, I mean, he didn't say nothing bad. You know, I mean, you know, because you know, busted up, you know, like how it is. Like, sometimes it's kind of like, you know, they lean with WWE a lot. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, they probably get somebody on to try to like trash them or whatever the case may be. But
he wasn't on Busted Open. He was on Game Changer Weekly on Body Slam.
Oh, all right, Body Slam. All right. So he was on the other thing. He was on something else.
He was on Game Changer Weekly.
Game Changer Weekly. All right. See, I see. That myself, I'm not familiar with. But at least, you know, he clarified a lot of things, and I think he's right. Like, when it comes to Effie, like, yeah, Effie is a strong, opinionated person, which I said myself. I was like, he has a lot to say. He speaks his mind, and, you know, it's kind of, he's also very, you know, very outspoken when it comes to certain things. And, you know, I mean, it's good for Effie. That's why I like Effie, and
I got people talking.
And he's very unique. I mean, when it comes to like his wrestling
talking.
and also for him being a gay wrestler, it might not be the easiest thing, but he's made it work. Like a lot of like what he's going about and being very open to like being outspoken. So it's one of those things where, again, I think Brett didn't say nothing wrong, and at least there's clarification. But at the same time, if people are just not looking at it, they're just still going to run with a certain narrative. And I think a lot in wrestling, that's always the unfortunate part. Because, again, people see one thing and then they run with it. It's, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going to really fix anything. And I mean, it's unfortunate, but I mean, as long as we have a platform like this and we're trying to be honest with you guys and, we're being open on certain things, I think that's what should matter as well. At least we're not in a platform like this, Tru Heel Heat, we're not running with a narrative because I don't think that's what we're about.
Krssi, what's your opinion on all of this? And what do you think about now that we it's been confirmed, but Krssi and Josh can confirm this. I literally told them like 3 months ago that Ricky Starks is still in this company until next summer.
I'm about to say no. I think I was in that conversation too. I think that you he had signed.
But I only told Ja. I didn't say it on camera. I said
right.
Yeah,
you only told us behind the scenes, right?
I pretty much. I think because of this report, I think I was told around the time that AEW did extend his contract. That's why I was able to tell y'all like months ago now. But like. What do you think is the future for Ricky Starks? Do you think that the AEW is going to just ice him out for the rest of his contract until next summer? Will they use him again? And what do you your whole opinion on them pulling him from the GCW shows?
Yes, I think they'll use him, but just like certain places where they need like those pops or those like things, because he's going to get a pop wherever he comes out. So they'll use him. They're just not going to they can't use him for right now. I mean, they could use him because he could do things with like Ricochet. He could do a lot of things. I mean, he'll be used just probably in the same way he's been being used since he's been there.
I think they're going to ice him out until next summer.
You think they'll keep on himself till then? Damn.
I don't understand why, but Tony Khan seems to just want to reinvent the wheel. Just like I will complain about Triple H wanting to reinvent the wheel on the War Games and giving the fucking baby faces the advantage in War Games. Tony Khan does it on a bigger spectrum because he's trying to reinvent the wrestling business. For 100+ years, the wrestling business has been around. And for 100+ years, there's been talent that leave a wrestling promotion to go to another wrestling promotion, that leave a territory to go to a bigger territory.
Yep.
And for 100+ years, what do the owners of those wrestlers who are about to leave to another promotion do? They job them out to absolutely anybody and everybody available wins over that guy. Old Dumbo the bum in the alley across the street, you can beat Ricky Starks. Old homegirl with one leg, you can beat Ricky Starks. Old guy with yes, homegirl. It don't matter. It don't matter the gender. It don't matter if it's he, she, they, them. Don't matter. They can beat Ricky Starks. But Tony Khan seems to want to reinvent the wrestling business, and he can't use motherfuckers who he knows is going to WWE. And I understand WWE has all the money in the world with the TKO merger, is on fire as far as business, and it's the #1 wrestling promotion in the world. The storytelling, the product, everything across the board is hotter than it's ever been. It's good as it's ever been. You do not need to do this. Should not be your response. Your response should not be to hold your fucking talent hostage or to ice out your talent. So when they go to WWE, their pop is not as big as it would have been if they were on your show the week prior. That is not how you combat WWE. You use these guys and you job them out to anybody. That's the best way to negate whatever pop they're going to get in WWE. Because when the fans see them in WWE and they watch both products, they're going to be like, oh, that's our old bum who lost everybody in AEW.
Oh God, I can't.
No, I think he'll be used again.
I think I have faith.
I think just because. Hear me
now
out.
we can clip this part right here.
I think, I think he'll be. I think he'll be used again, just because, like,
this is a clippable one.
I guess like the situations between like Ricky and like somebody like Phoenix. I think there are two different situations. Because I know people were bringing that up. People were comparing that. People were like, oh, about Phoenix and all this shit. But I'm like, that situation, I mean, Phoenix fucked up. So I really don't feel bad for the guy. I love Phoenix, but that whole situation is another, that's a different story compared to what's going on with Ricky. And, I think it's one of those things with Ricky where it's, again, like, I would love to know what the fuck is really going on, because me personally, I feel like there's more that's going on that nobody's really letting on, and it's so fucking weird. Like, I know I know in the interview he brought up the whole fact that somebody went up to him and said like how it was bad look that he went to like the Royal Rumble or like WrestleMania, one of those two, like how it was a bad look. But people do it all the time. Yeah. That was just weird. I think there's still people who believe in that old like mindset of wrestling where it's like, hey, you can't, like keeping it kayfabe and all this shit. I didn't find it a big deal. Yeah, he went to Royal Rumble to support Cody. He went to WrestleMania to support Cody. Dustin was at WrestleMania.
I was say his brother was there, and no one said anything. No one batted an eye.
His brother was there. I mean, Charlotte was at AEW shows.
Yeah,
with Andrade.
Bailey was at AEW shows this year.
Bailey was at AEW shows. So I think when it comes to that, I don't think it's that. I really want to believe is that. I really want to believe that it's not that, because I'm like, that would be so fucking stupid if it's that. That would be even worse. Like, if that's your reason, then it's like, what the fuck? Like, just let him go.
People just love to talk just to talk.
Yeah, but it's just like, because again, like, I know people, again, Ricky Starks has his right to feel like there's a bunch of theories, because there are theories. You have that theory. You have, he's close friends with CM Punk, which I don't think that's a thing either, because I'm like, he was used.
Even though he did say in the CVV interview, someone told him that he's lucky to have his job after seeing him.
Yeah, which I'm like, what the fuck? That has to like.
Now that's messy.
And but that's the thing though, and that's the thing. Like, that's even like when you do shit like that, then again, like you're trying to look at trying to like put the perception on everybody in the company, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't feel that way in the company. Brody King has been open to saying, hey, CM Punk didn't do anything wrong, and yet the man is still on TV and he's been killing it. So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, like, I feel like there's something more to the story that neither side are saying. But that's just me. Again, like, there's no confirmation of that. That's just how I feel about it. And Ricky has every right to speak about it. He has every right not to speak about it, because at the end of the day, it's not really our business to know what's going on. So it's so fucking unfortunate, because Ricky is that fucking talented. I think he's a world champion caliber talent that they should have used. And the time that momentum that was there, unfortunately, it was a bad time, just because like when he had that feud with MJF, I thought that was great. I thought that could have led to great things, but MJF just became a world champion, so he wasn't going to win that. So it's one of those things.
He didn't need to win that. He could have got something from that, but they
but then that happened.
They put him in a feud with Chris Jericho. That's what killed it.
No, but I'm saying like but I'm saying like as in like
being
like as in like world champion, like as in like I was talking about like him like winning the world championship. That's what I meant more, because I feel like at this point
I was ever going to win the world title. I don't think that's ever
It sucks, which was what I'm saying. Like, it sucks because I do believe he's a world championship caliber talent. Like, I that's how I feel about Ricky, because he has the looks, he has the talking skills, he has the ring skills. The only downside with Ricky is always maybe the injuries, because I know he's had like a few back injuries. That's about it. But besides that, I mean, right, you take the good with the bad, right? That's just how it is in wrestling. There's guys who get injured a lot. Phil, and he's still unique. So it happens. It's just one of those things where the whole situation, it just sucks for Ricky Starks. And maybe someday we'll find out what really happened, what's going on. Maybe we won't. Maybe what he said is true. The whole thing is just, it's a fucked up situation at the end of the day.
We do have a super chat donation here from Chuck Berries. Thank you so much, Chuck Berries. Appreciate the support. A big super chat as well. Appreciate that. He says, to use a sports analogy, it seems to me that TK thinks that he is playing defense against outside organizations at the talent's expense. But really, he is not winning much at all. And he is wasting his own money in the end. Yeah. Pretty much. That's a pretty good sports analogy, because he's not even trying to play defense against outside organization. He's just only playing defense against one organization. He's just trying to prevent people who he thinks is going to go to WWE. If he thought Ricky Starks was going to TNA, he probably wouldn't have extended his deal. He wouldn't have cared. He didn't extend. He could have extended I think Santana's contract a little bit longer, but he didn't. And the whole thing that makes the extending of the contract look bad, especially when it comes to Ricky Starks and even the Phoenix and Pentagon situation, regardless of what we think, Penta and Phoenix did wrong in their situation, by extending their deals, you're literally doing what WWE did get penalized for a lot and is getting praised for now that they're not doing that. The fact that they didn't extend the deals of MVP and Bobby Lashley, so they were able to go out and go to AEW and are in a successful act right now. They didn't do that, but yet Tony Khan is doing that with Ray Phoenix, Ricky Starks, Penta, just to keep them away from WWE. You're making WWE feel like the ultimate destination for everybody by the way you're treating this whole situation. You're like, everybody should want to get out of their contracts. And it seems like in your head, you think that if you let somebody out of their contract, you don't extend their contract when you're able to, that all your wrestlers are going to go to WWE. It feels like you're making decisions with that type of mindset.
When you're right. SP is like, now you're making it be like the end all be all, like this is like the best thing that people want to be at, and that's not the case. They might want to go to Impact, or they just want to be just independent, contractors and just go wherever their heart desires to let them go.
Yeah, we got another super chat donation here from Will Chisholm. Thank you so much, Will. He says, I don't think we will ever know what really happened with Ricky, because Cody still won't tell the real reason why he left AEW. And this is the crazy part. They could have extended Cody's deal back in 2022, but it was a different time, a different place. Vince McMahon was still in charge of WWE. It was before the TKO merger, and he let Cody out of his deal. And it's like, ever since then, he's like, that was a mistake.
There was, but also they were in a situation where they were trying to re-sign him. I think the end goal was to get him on a new full-time, like a multi-year deal. It just didn't happen. Sometimes you take that risk, sometimes you don't. It's like that with football. Like with football, like when like a lot of first-round draft picks, a lot of people don't know like the structure of the draft picks. So like the first rounders, they get a fifth-year option. They get a fifth-year option. So basically, you get a 4-year contract with your rookie contracts, 4 years, and if the team wants to pick up your 5th year, they're able to do that. They just can't do it with like if you're a second round pick, third round pick. They don't have the options, only 4 years. But with first round picks, it's a 5th-year option. Usually, like if you're doing great, like if you're a star player, within the third year, you get they negotiate your contract, so you get an extension off of that. It's all those complicated shit where in wrestling, some guys have a pickup option, some of them don't. Ricky was one of those guys who had a pickup option. Some of them they don't have. They don't.
No.
Have that
What I heard this year is that everybody in AEW has except for the tippy top stars. If you sign a 3-year deal, the third year or the fourth year is an option.
Yeah. Technically, that's how it makes up the 4 years. So you'll sign up a 4-year contract, but they said your first 3 years are guaranteed, and then they'll pick up your fourth if everything works out. Basically, it's like that. But the top tier guys, like MJF, for example, he probably doesn't have an option year. There's a great chance he doesn't have an option year. Guys like that, like Kenny Omega, he probably doesn't have an option year. Hangman Page, he probably doesn't have an option year because the Elite sign at the same time. So those guys probably
I don't know about Hangman. I think it's only tippy top. It's only Jericho, MJF, Omega, Moxley. Yeah. That's it.
The only reason why I say Hangman is because remember that when the Elite re-signed, they all re-signed at the same time. So it could be because of that. But that's just an example of what people don't know, that some wrestlers do have a pickup option, some of them don't.
But speaking of the Lucha Bros and all the drama that went down with them in AEW, we have an update on both Lucha Bros. The Lucha Bros are on their way out of AEW. The belief has been that Penta will leave in the near future, while Phoenix will have to wait several more months due to AEW adding time to his deal for the time he missed with injuries. Fightful Select reports Penta's deal will be up next week and will become a free agent. WWE is still interested in him. There are indie companies looking to book him in high-profile matches as well. Fightful Select also reports that isn't the case with Rey Fenix, as it's believed that he has a lot more time left on his deal. Phoenix's deal allegedly extends significantly into next year. It was reported that the Lucha Bros would leave AEW in the fall of this year and go to WWE. When AEW learned about this, they added injury time to both contracts. It's unknown what AEW's creative plans were for Phoenix individually, but Death Triangle were scheduled to win the trios titles All in London. According to Wrestling Observer newsletter, Penta El Zero's Meryl's contract expires imminently, but Rey Fenix reportedly isn't being let go from his deal with out of his contract, with injury time being added, despite there being no plans to use him. The report reads Penta's contract expires at the end of the month, so he would be free to start in WWE imminently. There is nothing new on Phoenix. The last word is that he is not being let out of his contract, but they aren't going to use him either. Once again, why does Tony Khan not want to use people to job them out? Man, I would love to see Rey Fenix job out to Will Ospreay or Ricochet.
Mm-hmm.
Or
put those guys on the map so that they can have this big win on their belt, because they're gonna leave. Those guys are leaving, so you might as well put someone over to make them be bigger. I can't.
I just don't understand that line of thinking. You have them under contract. You literally this is where I'm having the disconnect with Tony Khan, because I'm he's a billionaire. This money that he's paying these guys to sit at home, it does no difference to him. It's like lunch money to him. So it does not matter to him. If I was the pen and I'm paying you to come into work and job out to everybody. I don't know. That's just my thinking, and it just doesn't make any sense the way Tony Khan is handling this whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I stick by what I said. It's one of those situations where I really don't feel bad for them, and whatever happens. It's like, oh well, that's just how I feel about it at the moment.
I'm starting to feel more bad for the Lucha Bros, because it was on Penta and Conan. And Phoenix is the one that's getting fucked over for it, and we still don't have any confirmation Phoenix said any.
Yeah,
it was Penta. It was his brother.
Penta, that's your fault. That's your fault, Penta. You see what you did? That's your fault. That's your fault.
Oh god.
It's your fault.
In a post on Twitter, AEW announced that Big Boom AJ suffered an injury during his match with QT Marshall at the AEW Full Gear 0 Hour. AJ suffered a broken foot in the match, which he ended up winning. PW Insider adds that AJ had been seen using crutches at the hotel after the event, although that wasn't verified by another source. AJ posted to his Twitter account and noted that he believes the injury happened during his flying clothesline, but that he worked through it once the adrenaline kicked in. The Costco Guys member said that he's spoken with AEW and Tony Khan and will be back in the ring once his foot heals and will continue to work with the company while he's recovering. He noted that he expects to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. According to Fightful Select, AEW officials were said to be very happy with the reaction of the appearance of the Costco Guys. Additionally, both sides are reportedly open to working together again. Fightful also reports that the Rizzler was in high demand for visitors, talent, and staff for photos backstage. QT Marshall's match with Big Boom AJ played out as the last match on the 0 Hour pre-show. Marshall reportedly pushed for the match to be booked in the middle of the pre-show to follow up with another match to keep viewers tuned in. However, it ultimately went on last on the pre-show instead. So, speedy recovery to Big Boom AJ. They did much better than they had any right to do on that show.
Everybody's saying that.
Yeah.
This poor kid is like 10 years old, and he knows every time a camera is on him, he has to do the Rizzler pose.
Oh, the Rizzler. You know what's funny? Everybody thought like that was like AJ's kid. I was like, no, he just collabs with them. So everybody's getting confused. Everyone thinks like their entire family. It's like, no, they're
all related.
Yeah, Big Justice is AJ's son. But the kid is just somebody that they know from social media. But I mean, overall, like we said, man, they did their thing, right? Crowd got over. That's all you can really ask for. I mean, it was a positive story, you know, and I think it did well for them. And then within the same week, he's still doing content with the booth. So I mean, he's a working man. He's a man for the people.
He's a worker's worker. Moving on over to AEW Dynamite this week. The Thanksgiving Eve edition of Dynamite featured the start of the AEW Continental Classic 2024 tournament as Shelton Benjamin beat Mark Briscoe in a strong opener to the tournament to earn 3 points in the Blue League. Meanwhile, you had over on the other side, Claudio Castagnoli defeating Ricochet in a good bout. And Brody King, he picked up a win over Darby Allin in a super fun main event to Dynamite this week in the Gold League. Both Claudio and Brody King earning 3 points in the Gold League before they go head-to-head on next Wednesday's AEW Dynamite. After the main event, Claudio attempted to attack Darby, but Brody stepped up to protect his former friend. So some good stuff there. You also had Hangman Adam Page explain his actions from Full Gear, saying he held up his end of the deal with Christian Cage and he wants the AEW world title for himself. This led to Jay White coming down to say that his 2 straight wins over Hangman says that he gets the shot first until the Death Riders attack both men. Mercedes Moné tried to fire Camille, but her bodyguard quit instead to the dismay of the CEO. Jamie Hayter defeated Queen Aminata in a hard-hitting affair to advance in the Wrestle Dream International Women's Cup Qualifier Tournament. And Kyle O'Reilly stepped up to face MJF instead of Adam Cole after the attack on Roderick Strong. But both men ended up entering the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal after MJF announced the return of the match for next week. And Chris Jericho beat Tomohiro Ishii to retain the Ring of Honor World Championship in an ugly, blistering battle. 2 old bums fighting. That's what it reminded me.
Bums. Sheesh.
2 old bums. Yeah, 2 old bums bleeding from the nose, all red-faced and shit. 2 old bums. What did you think about Dynamite this week, Miss Krssi Love, and the start of the Continental Classic?
I'm excited for the Continental Classic. I'm excited for the next round. That Castagnoli and Brody I think it's going to be one of the one that we didn't see coming. I feel like those are two. One big. They're both tall and they move, and it's just going to be a really good match. The Mercedes Moné firing Homegirl was like, we seen it coming.
Still stupid.
Yeah, that's what I'm. Thank you. I was trying to find a word. You okay? We can use stupid. It's. We've seen this whole bodyguard leave the person, and then we got to fight them with Diesel, Shawn Michaels, or Kevin Nash, whatever you want to call him. Who else?
Wardlow and MJF.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. See, there you go. So we've seen all of this stuff, copy and paste, but whatever you want to do.
But we've seen it speed run the way this was.
Yeah, but she's been a bodyguard with her, what, 2 months? She tried to run
July.
Okay, whatever. Stupid. It's dumb. Whatever, Tony Khan. I'll watch your stuff to still watch. I'll just, whatever.
I don't know.
Like you said, it is a toxic relationship. It's very toxic.
It's very toxic. Very toxic, the relationship. Sometimes when you're watching the show, sometimes you feel like, oh man, that was good. That was bad. Oh, that was good. That was bad. But yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Is like, oh, how do we get here? Okay, fine. Like, we need to talk.
We need to have a conversation.
We need to have a conversation right now. Yep.
Let's talk more about the Continental Classic 2024 tournament. The competitors were announced last Sunday as AEW released a new video announcing the field of 12. We got for the Blue League. The Blue League will consist of the reigning AEW Continental Champion, Katsuhika Okada. You also got, coming off the biggest win of his career, Kyle Fletcher. Daniel Garcia, the new TNT champion, is over here in the Blue League. Mark Briscoe making his return to the Continental Classic in the Blue League as well. Coming off the heels of his opening match victory, Shelton Benjamin will look to represent Hurt Business in the Blue League, while Beast Mortos will represent LFI in the Blue League of the Continental Classic. Over in the Gold League, or as I like to say it, the Better League, you got Darby Allin, the former two-time TNT champion, Claudio Castagnoli, 1/3 of the AEW World Trios champions and member of the Death Riders, Will Ospreay making his Continental Classic debut. Another person making their debut is Ricochet. You also got Brody King making his return to the Continental Classic, and Juice Robinson, a round robin expert, a G1 expert, making his debut in the Continental Classic. Krssi Love, what do you think about the field this year for the Continental Classic? And I'll ask you, who is your favorite for the Blue League? And I'll ask Jacques, who's his favorite for the Gold League.
Can I see the list of the Blue League again? Okay. So, the thing is in the way. Shelton. Who's underneath Shelton? Okay, Beast Mortal. Oh, I got Cloud Fletcher in this one.
That's fair. But what do you think about the field overall?
It's pretty good. I mean, the only person I don't think that belongs in this group is Daniel Garcia.
Why you say that? Because he's a champion?
No, just I don't think he matches up with the other guys.
Okay.
He's not on their levels.
Well, he's a TNT champion. How is he not on their level?
He just got there like a day ago. Stop it.
So what? Don't. He had one of the best stories in last year's tournament.
You're right. You're absolutely right. He's not winning though, so it doesn't matter. Next league, they look great though. Like I said, the only person I don't think that belongs there is him. You asked me, I'm telling you what I
did. That's what I said. Fair.
Gold
Josh,
League now.
What about you? Gold League. Who do you got over here?
Gold League, I'm gonna go with. This is a good one.
Yeah.
Probably didn't say for bet. I'll go with Ospreay.
Yes. Check out our Continental Classic preview with me and Jimmy. We broke down the tournament before the start of the tournament on
I know
Wednesday.
Juice doesn't have a chance, but I would love
Blue League, Okada. Easily. I think he.
Who you have winning the tournament, Josh? That's what I was going to ask you.
Winning the tournament, I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks I think Okada retains it. I think he wins it and he still retains the title.
Oh, guys,
I mean, that's what I'm going with. Because I'm trying to look, right? And I'm looking. I'm like, who could really win it and really beat him? I think Ospreay would be the safest bet, but I don't see him getting another mid-card title. I don't see him getting like another title like this. It makes it interesting because I'm just like, like who would win it?
Who you got winning the entire tournament, Krssi Love?
I got Okada winning. I stick with Okada. Fuck it. I got him winning.
You got him winning. Okay.
Yeah.
Staying a champion, make him important, I guess.
Well, the whole build to the Continental Classic has been about Okada proving he's the greatest tournament wrestler of all time.
Yeah.
True.
I was gonna say they did mention about like his tournament wins too. Like they were making that like a big deal. They were saying something about like
the whole build up in the video package was about Okada,
which I thought that was pretty solid. Like I like the fact because I was like I didn't know that they were talking about like how this like the other guy had about like 4 or 5 like big tournament wins and Okada is basically on pace to like pass him. Like that kind of made it interesting in my opinion because I was just like, oh shit, like they're doing something with it. Kind of felt like a sports kind of feel when it came to that. So I thought they did a fairly good job when it came to that. I know a lot of people were complaining like, where's Okada been? Okada had a baby, guys. He's been back home in Japan. He had a baby with his wife. That's why he hasn't been on TV, guys.
They'll be all right.
But who do you have winning? Krssi Love?
I have winning. I'm going to go with Fletcher.
That's a good shout. That's definitely a good shout. I will go to be different from the rest of y'all. I will go with Will Ospreay. I do see Will Ospreay winning this championship because if he's not intending on winning the AEW world title, you got to give him shit to get him distracted. And the Continental Classic.
I mean that's fair. I see that. I think that's more than fair. Honestly, to me, it's between Okada and Ospreay. I think they're the two best options. And
I think it's 3. I think we have the 3
Fletcher.
options. It's Fletcher if you want to continue the push for him that started at Full Gear. It's Ospreay if you want to just distract him and he could probably get his win back against Fletcher in the finals, or it's Okada to prove he's the greatest tournament wrestler. And I think probably if you had to throw in one more, I would say a dark horse is someone like a Ricochet because Ricochet it probably needs it more than the other 3 guys.
I'm about to say now Ricochet is the person that does need the win. That was my second pick because I mean Will doesn't need it, but Ricochet does need something to stay like important at this thing right now.
Yeah. What do you think is going to be the best match of the C2 this year, Josh? Out of the ones we know are going to happen.
Out of the ones that we know are going to happen, I think Claudio and Brody King are going to be good. When I saw them face to face, I was like, oh shit! Like, I didn't know that was a match I needed. That was cool to see. As far as like, can I see the things again? I got to see like.
I already erased it.
Yeah, you got to see the list. Yep.
Oh damn! You already erased it.
I deleted it. But
okay,
I will
that's
give
fine.
you mine. I will
No
give
worries.
you mine. As soon as I saw the field, I was like, automatically, I was like, this is the match I want to see the most. It's probably going to be the best match. Will Ospreay versus Darby Allin. First time ever.
Ooh. You see, I didn't think about that one. You see, I did not think about that one. I'm like, oh shit, like you're actually right. And
that's gonna be a good one.
I mean, I wonder how many times Will's actually gonna throw Darby because
I love to see Darby thrown like a rag doll. It's just the best thing ever. I never knew I needed it till it happened.
I love that Brody King match. I was like, oh, Brody King, this is great. He's just beating the shit out of him. He's doing it. He's doing it reluctantly because he's actually his friend now. Oh, this is sweet. Yeah,
both
that's
guys have good chemistry too because they've
Mm-hmm.
worked against each other in the independent scene. So there's like a real rivalry there, like a lot of people really don't talk about. But that's every time they get to the ring, it's always fun. And like that's why to me, like I thought Brody was the right person to win in this situation. He was the right person. I know people are pushing for Darby.
That's not producer. That's the brackets from last year. What are you doing?
Yeah,
Don't do him like that. He tried. He was trying. Don't do that.
He tried.
You know, it's funny. I was looking at him like I see Danielson. I was like, oh shit.
Don't do that to him.
I saw numbers at the end. I'm like, they don't got those numbers yet. What is this, a prediction? And then I
mean,
looked at
A plus for effort though. At least he made the effort to try to like find it. I give him
tried
credit.
to do it. He tried to find it. Yep.
No, yeah, I did not think about Darby versus Austin. That would be interesting because honestly, I mean, I think they're gonna have an incredible match. I don't think it's, far to none. But if Darby, it's really gonna prove that Darby should be a world champion sooner than later if he has a great outing with Ospreay. So this is a good test for him.
I definitely agree with that. Krssi, Love, any match that you think is going to be the best out of the Continental Classic this year? If you want a cheat code, if you're going to just say Ospreay, you could do Ospreay versus Darby, Ospreay versus Claudio, Ospreay versus Ricochet, Ospreay versus Brody.
Okay, I was going to just say.
So Okada and Beast Mortal's gonna face each other.
I think Shelton and Beast Mortals.
That's gonna be fun too. That's gonna be fun too. Okada versus Beast Mortals. Oh,
that's gonna be Beast Mortals and Shelton might do something crazy.
Yo, especially the way they've been using Shelton, like
exactly. I'm loving the way they use him. I hope. I would love for him to even win.
He's like Black Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like let him use that man to his abilities. Yeah.
I love it. Alex Powell saying Ospreay match in Hammerstein is gonna rule. Give me Darby and Ospreay in the Hammerstein, please. That would be amazing. I think that the two matches I most want to see from Ospreay is Ospreay versus Ricochet and Ospreay versus Darby. You got to put one at Winter is Coming and the other one in Hammerstein. Between those two.
Same. Yeah.
But we will talk more about the Continental Classic as the weeks go on. We will keep you up to date on what's going on with the standings in the Continental Classic. More matches go down tonight or this afternoon on Collision, which starts at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on TNT. But let's talk about some more AEW news. In an interview with the Leaves Nation, it was Adam Copeland gave an update on the condition of his leg and when he might be able to return to the ring in AEW. Copeland broke his leg after diving up from the top of the cage at AEW Double or Nothing in a match against Malachi Black. He said, "My brain forgets I'm 51. But my body quickly reminded me, yeah, you just jumped from 21 feet, asshole. That's technically three stories. You're 51. Quit it. But I feel good. I'm ready to get back at it and to get busy again." It was in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Dave Meltzer speculated that AEW may potentially think about bringing Copeland back when he's in his new hometown of Asheville, North Carolina for Fight for the Fallen on January 1st. That will serve as AEW Dynamite's premiere on the Max streaming service and could potentially see the return of Adam Copeland. When do you guys see Adam Copeland coming back? And what do you see him? What universe of all the AEW universe will he land on? Where do you think Copeland will kind of be when he does make his return to All Elite Wrestling? Krssi?
Where would he be when he returns to All Elite?
Yeah, is he going to be with Moxley and the Death Riders? Is he going to be feuding with the Hurt Syndicate? Is he going to be feuding with the Don Callis family? Where do you see him being?
Okay. Let's see. I think he might feud with Moxley. Let him feud with him. That's a good thing. Like, I came to this company. I thought it was a great place. You're trying to bring it down. Those type of things. He'll give great promos.
Yeah. I would love if Copeland kind of used what Orange Cassidy said. Orange Cassidy said, Moxley never needed AEW. Well, I do. I needed AEW to become who I was. I would like for Copeland to say, I didn't technically need AEW, but I wanted to come to AEW. I love AEW. I love what AEW has become. So I'm not going to let Jon Moxley tear it down. I would love if that was kind of the route that that all went down, and team up Copeland and FTR against the Death Riders. I think that would be a lot of fun as well.
Yeah.
But I think they gotta strike while the iron is hot, and you might not get Copeland as hot as he's gonna be returning from this injury ever again during his time in AEW. So once he comes back, put him into the main event scene.
Don't sound bad. Yep.
Let us know in the chat what you guys think. We got Alex Fitzgerald who says Adam Copeland and Omega returning soon. Hopefully, Samoa Joe returns soon. This is the healthiest the roster has been in so long. Indeed. We got I Make Beats who says, I enjoyed Copeland's short AEW run. And Frantic World says, I need Adam Copeland and Christian to team up as heels. I booked that earlier this year, and he didn't do it. So I've given up on that. I've given up on my Copeland and Christian teaming up. They should have been Sting's final opponents with Darby Allin.
I'm going to be a mad scientist and say Copeland should be in a feud with Ricky Starks. That's how you bring back Ricky Starks, too.
Oh, you're being a troll.
That's my mad scientist book, but I think Mox would be a good segue for him. Like if you bring him back, because I do agree. Like, if you bring him back, you need him being like, you need to be. You want him to be as hot. That would be kind of the best way to do it for someone like Adam Copeland. Because we all know what he could do. Right? There's no doubt he knows how to talk. He knows how to work. So a situation like that wouldn't hurt him. Just if you kind of bring him back and he's just like in a mid feud, it's not going to really do much. So I do agree. Like you put him back against like Mox, that would be good. My mad scientist theory of like him versus Ricky Starks would just be something that'd be good for both of them. And I think it would just kind of like, that's just my madness talking when it comes to that.
Oh God, if they do this, I would hate them so much.
Fuck no.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Please, no. In an email that was sent to everyone who purchased tickets for AEW Grand Slam Australia, informing them that the event has changed venues. The show was originally set to take place at Suncorp Stadium, which seats around 52,000 people. It's unknown what capacity would have been with AEW setup. Either way, the event is now happening at the Brisbane Entertainment Center, and that venue has a capacity of 13,500. Grand Slam Australia is still scheduled for February 15th. Those who bought tickets will get new tickets for the new location within 2 weeks. And I knew it! I knew they wasn't going to sell that stadium. And apparently AEW just figured it out that they were not going to sell out 50,000 seats. They weren't going to sell out 40,000 seats. With the way their marketing and PR and promotion is, there was no way they were going to be able to get that many people in Australia, in Brisbane, not even Sydney.
Yeah, they
not
were
even
gonna
a main location. Like you were,
because you know what happened too.
Such a big endeavor. They shouldn't have even tried that.
Yeah, because you know what it is too. Australia was the one that pushed for the stadium. They originally didn't want the stadium. Australia was the one that was pushing for it. But then also, I mean, Australia in general is such a hard market that I was like, guys shouldn't do a stadium, because even when WWE was there, WWE, they're talking about like, oh yeah, we did this and that. They didn't sell out the stadium either. So it's Australia itself is just it's a hard market in general. There's even people that I know who live out there. Like there's people that I associate with, And usually with Australia, like the way that they live, the way I've been described is that they kind of live backwards. Like that was the best way to hear about it. So I think that, they're trying to push certain things in that market in general for like their country, but at the same time they got to realize that for you to do something that big, you need, like, I don't know what's the word, but you kind of like need to live within the times that are that's currently going on, right? It's like if you're bringing in AEW, you got to realize, all right, AEW is a smaller market compared to WWE. They can't do the same stadium or same like output that WWE just did. It's just not gonna happen. Yeah, that was kind of one of those things. But I think the venue they got now is better for AEW. I think it's about 13,000, right? 14,000. And I think they could, I don't want to say sell out, but they could get at least over 10,000. They could get 10K because they've been doing that for their pay-per-views. It's just, again, Australia, it's not the easiest market to push out there.
For sure, and AEW learned that lesson. But finally, to finish up with the Converse, you had ROH TV on Honor Club. They had a special Thanksgiving episode. The main event saw the conglomerations Mark Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly, and Rocky Romero defeat Pat Buck and the Grizzled Young Veterans. AR Fox beat John Silver. Matt Taven picked up a win over former ROH Pure Champion Josh Woods in his quest to complete the ROH Grand Slam. The Righteous defeated Beef and JD Drake. Post-match, Vincent and Dutch taunted ROH World Tag Team Champions Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara of the Sons of Texas with the Dusty Rhodes cowbell, who came out and chased them off with a steel chair to close that segment. As it seems like we're going to get the Righteous going after the Sons of Texas for Ring of Honor final battle coming up next month. But we'll keep you up to date with everything going on in ROH in the weeks to come. But let's go on over to WWE. Why don't we? As last night we had SmackDown. The show featured Roman Reigns sitting down with Paul Heyman and CM Punk ahead of the men's War Games match, where Roman told Punk he doesn't want his help or like him very much, while Punk said that he's doing this for his good friend Paul Heyman and not Roman. Punk then informed Reigns that he is doing this one time for one favor. Roman asked him he's going to owe him a favor, and he said no, but his wise man will. And when Roman asked when Roman asked Paul what the favor is, Paul says, let's just get through War Games. So we don't know quite yet. This led to Jacob Fatu defeating Jey Uso in a fun main event matchup to give the new Bloodline the War Games advantage heading into tonight's show. Mishin defeated Lash Legend and Piper Niven in a solid match to advance in the WWE Women's United States title tournament. Shinsuke Nakamura beat Andrade in a fine match. Post-match, LA Knight came down for a measure of revenge, but received the poison mist in his face for his troubles. And undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes defeated Carmelo Hayes in another good bout between the two. So good stuff there. It was actually a good go-home show, which I think it's mainly down to how bad the bar has been lowered on go-home shows between the top two promotions. But it was still good. Still.
I just want to say that the Women's War Games, that segment they had, stupid. But okay,
yeah, you see, I didn't even include that, right?
I know. I noticed that as I came back and I sat down. I was like, he didn't even talk about the women, but okay.
It was so paint by the numbers. Like I literally can close my eyes and tell you what they did because it's like zero effort involved.
Such very, very zero effort. Is like they don't even give a shit. Like it just shows that they never gave a shit about the women's games at all. At all. And we threw a Bailey. Who knew? Great girl, you're in. Put her in, coach.
Come on down. We got you now. Yeah. Josh, what did you think about Roman and Punk's sit down with Paul Heyman?
It was a great segment.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way it was shot. I've been always like, I've kind of been one of those guys that I'm like, sometimes they do shit like a little over the top. I thought this was fine. Like, it was very simple, kind of have like a board meeting kind of style. I thought that was good. And then, Punk saying like how Paul owes him that favor, kind of, big speculation, like what's that favor? And, kind of it keeps it interesting, especially for Punk getting back on track, since he was off for a few weeks, gives him something to do. And then now kind of makes you wonder, like, what the fuck? Like, what was he talking about? But overall, it was a great segment.
Is the wise man gonna double cross them? Is the question. Oh my god.
I mean, I don't know, but then he kind of looked scared, and I'm like, bro, weren't you just hyped last week that your boy came back in that oversized suit, and then now you're looking scared for whatever reason, sitting down? Like, stop doing that shit, Paul. Like, it's just weird. Anyway, I thought SmackDown was solid. I thought it was a solid show. Cody and Carmelo, they have great chemistry. I thought that was a good match. KO, I mean, he showed more of like what's been going on and why he has his beef with Cody.
The KO segment probably was my favorite part of last night's show.
KO is upset.
He's not the bad guy. It's not him. Kevin Owens.
And I get it.
Is innocent.
I mean, and I get it. KO's upset, but at the same time, I mean, KO has always been a piece of shit himself. So it's like I can't really feel that bad for him. But that's just me. I get it. I get why he's upset, but it's just like, you piece of shit too, bro. But yeah, SmackDown was good. And then, I mean, I do agree with Krssi. Like, the Women's War Games match, I mean, honestly, these ladies gonna have to show the fuck out.
They're gonna have to, but like, it's still not gonna
like kind of have any kind of like I want to say momentum, but like, hey, wow, that was a great matchup. Like, wow, that was fucking good.
To go from last year's War Games to go to this year is just like, girls.
Yeah, I'm not that confident, but hopefully, I mean, that's all I'm really asking for. If all they can really do at this point is show the fuck out, because guess what? If they show the fuck out, nobody's really going to complain about the build-up. I mean, that's the best thing they could do. I just don't know who's going to stand out in that match. And the one person who's going to stand out, she's not in the match. So it's one of those things where I don't know. I really don't know what's going to save it. And then also, I think Jay versus Jacob, I thought that was fine. I'm kind of glad they didn't do the fucking ladder shit before. Remember how they used that in NXT? I'm kind of glad they got away from that. I thought that was just ridiculous. Like, you're putting these guys in terrible, like, horrendous, like, stipulations. And for what? Like, that's stupid. Remember that happened to Tamia Yin? Remember? Like, she had a lot of matches. And she got injured right before the match. It was like, you guys don't need to fucking do this. You don't need a fucking ladder.
The whole thing, the War Games is already dangerous. You don't need them getting injured before you're the dangerous match. Like, okay, maybe get.
But then also, I mean, honestly, I'll be fine if there was to scrap that out, because all you really need to do is have the heels have the advantage. So then the babyface wins. That's all you really need.
Like, and they fucked over the Women's War Games because the baby faces have the advantage. Why the fuck does Triple H always think this is gonna work?
It doesn't.
It already showed you like who's gonna win.
No, it's not. It's not even that. The whole war games.
The flow of it.
Basically, War Games, Krssi, it's just a series of hot tags.
Yeah.
And how does a hot tag work when the heels are the ones who get the hot tag? That's never worked in a tag team match. It doesn't work in War Games. So every time he does this, it pisses me off beyond belief. It just eats at my soul that he is so dumb.
Not your soul.
Not last year's, but I think the year before, right? When Roman
No,
was last.
he's done this every year since he's brought it to the main roster. He cannot do both war games where the heels have the advantage. He always
no.
has to have
I was gonna
one
say
babyface.
because I was gonna say the year that the Bloodline was in it, Roman was the last one, but then he only worked like 10 minutes, so it was kind of one of those things where it was like, we knew they were gonna win. Why was this?
And
well,
the women's war games last year.
Huh?
The women's war games last year, the baby faces had the advantage, and it was the worst of the two war games, which is very rare because usually if the men and the women have a matchup, the women are always going to have the better matchup because they put in more effort. But they fucked them over by giving them the babyface advantage, and then they did it again this year.
Yeah. Which it's funny that you brought that up because I think with women's match, I noticed this with like the Royal Rumble. I've kind of noticed this with like, the Elimination Chamber. Is that with the women's, you'll usually get some like stuff like they'll probably like mess up in or it's kind of messy, but then it ends up working out, right? People love what they do. Somebody takes like that big risk, right? And we had like a few women that takes those big risks. With the men's, it's probably not going to be better, but the men's is always better paced. Like their matches have always been better paced. And maybe that's why a lot of people will say, like, oh, yeah, this match was better because it's better paced. Usually the women will do crazier things because the women know they have to get over more. And I think that this is another case within the War Games match at tonight. The women are going to have to find a way to get the fuck over because you're not going to really top anything story-wise what the men's are doing because you have the Bloodline involved, you have Roman Reigns involved, you have Punk involved. That's already a hard sell for the women when it has already been a terrible build-up. So I think this is another case for the women have to do something that they could show the fuck out. And again, if they show out, somebody does something nuts, multiple women do something nuts, that's all people are going to remember.
Yeah, pretty much. But talking about Roman Reigns, he has assembled his team for Survivor Series War Games tonight, and he recently shared his thoughts on his dynamic with CM Punk being added to the team. He spoke with Jimmy Trina of SI Media Podcast on the team OG Bloodline dynamic heading into War Games. He said, just first off, to be in a match just full of your family, whether you're fighting with or against each other, it's pretty neat. In the grand scheme, just looking from God's perspective, is something I'm very blessed and very fortunate and grateful for. To add some of the personalities that we have added, a CM Punk, Sami Zayn, Paul, these are outside figures who are working in some way closer than others. I look at Paul like chosen family. Sammy's one of those guys that just slowly but surely endeared himself in. And then Punk is like this crazy, who knows what kind of in-laws, how did this even happen? Who are you here with? You know what I mean? Like checking the guest list. Hold on. How did you get in here? on his reasons for hitting Seth Rollins with the steel chair at WrestleMania 40, he says, anytime I have the chance to fuck him up, I'm going to take it. That's how I feel about him. Anytime I have the chance to pull the trigger on him, I'm going to. He is a constant reminder and a lesson to myself on who to trust and how to trust them. If you can't, how to keep him. That's where I like to have him, a chair's length away. On the Bloodline story, continuing after so long, he said, and I quote, "People laughed at us a while back. It may have been me or Paul, but the whole baseball innings thing, it was maybe a year or so ago. I thought we're stretching it, but we're not at this point. It's a whole new vision. I forget where I was diving today, but visualizing what it could be in the next 2 years, what it could be in the next 3 years. Blocking these things off just a year, a chunk at a time. Honestly, it wouldn't be possible if we weren't where we are right now. The creative freedom, the collaboration we have, our leadership being Triple H, Nick Khan, the way he runs it on the business side, also having that trust, not only Triple H, but the rest of us. It just trickles down to be able to have that trust and in us to perform and go out there and do it like we do it. So we asked this question about, I would say, almost 2 years ago. We asked this question after Royal Rumble 2023, but I will ask you, Krssi Love, where does the Bloodline storyline stand for you right now, November 30th, 2024, among the greatest pro wrestling storylines of all time? Is it number one? Who do you have above it? If it's not, where does it rank for you?
That's hard. I wouldn't say it's my number one. Maybe 3. But then now I got to think about the other 2 that's in front of it, which is going to take me a while.
What's the other two in front of it? It's number 2 for me. It's still I literally, even though it's been 2 years,
I got a number one in my head.
I still have not moved it from the number 2 spot. It's number 2. This was more in like WWE sense. In WWE story, it's number 2 behind Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince
and The Rock. Oh, Vince
that's right. That was one I was talking about.
Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon, they won the war. They kept themselves in business. They led to their biggest boom period of all time, the Attitude Era. I don't think there's any storyline that's gonna, overcome it. But if this guy's saying he has it tracked out for like 3 years, it may get past it. But like 2 years later, after we first asked this question, I think that it's number 2 still among WWE storylines.
Okay,
and it's in the top 5 greatest pro wrestling storylines of all time. The only ones that I would say I would put higher than them is probably, well, this is my personal, I would say, greatest pro wrestling storylines. I would say the NWO versus WCW and the build to Sting versus Hogan, I would put above it.
Okay.
I would also put the rise of Kenny Omega in New Japan Pro Wrestling above it. Because that takes in part the whole Omega and Okada, Omega and Jericho, Omega and Ibushi, the Golden Lover saga, the Bullet Club stuff. So I would put that ahead of the Bloodline storyline for right now, November 30th, 2024. Bloodline storyline may get above that. So I have it as a strong 4 out of my top 5 pro wrestling storylines of all time.
Okay.
Josh?
That's fair.
WWE wise, I agree. It's Austin versus Vince. I don't think you're ever gonna top that. Even if you was to try to duplicate something now of that, because since we already saw it, now everything else you kind of do after that would just come off like a ripoff. So it's kind of one of those things where it worked because, again, regardless of how we feel about Vince McMahon, it created one of the greatest characters in pro wrestling history. We got a heel Vince McMahon that, we kind of really didn't see coming when it happened. And then once he got on screen and, all that shit came together, he became one of the greatest characters within the wrestling industry, the guy who barely wrestled and, who hates the term wrestling. And then from that, you got one of the greatest babyface runs in company's history with Stone Cold Steve Austin, especially the way that it happened, one of your biggest stars in company history, right? And then even if you really go down to the wire of like when you talk about the greatest wrestlers of all time, there's a lot of people who have Stone Cold as number 1. So those little things do matter, like when it comes to that, because everything came together the way that it came together. Like Stone Cold became the face of the company because of his feud, because of his rivalry with Vince McMahon. And they both kind of needed each other when it came to that. Like every time where Stone Cold did his shit on Vince, like it was always must-see TV, right? And then I guess the downside when it came to that was when they ended up working together, because even Stone Cold has said himself, probably shouldn't have happened. I probably should have stunned him after he won the title. But I mean, when it comes to that, I mean, I don't think that nothing is really going to top that. With Bloodline, I would say within WWE, I would say a good 2, number 2, right?
It's a good number 2. Yeah, you're right.
Because again, you're really not going to top anything when it to what they're doing. I just think that they're in a position where they're kind of like getting parts in to see what works, right? Sometimes that does happen where I don't think with Vince and Stone Cold that really happened a lot. Like there wasn't like, hey, let's throw something in there. Let's see what works. With Bloodline, we kind of see more of that because we are getting more people in, and then they did sign more family members, so they're showing up some way somehow. So I mean, when it comes to that, I think there's like a lot of moving parts that are still like we're trying to figure out what's going to happen even after War Games, what's going to happen after that, because then we still have the factor of The Rock coming back, what's going to be his role within this. So it's, I would say right now number 2, right? I think it's a good number 2 because I think what people get confused with too is like a long storyline doesn't mean that it's a great storyline. So it's, Bloodline has had some down periods, has had some fatigue periods. So it's just one of those things that right now, it's going. Could it go for another 2 years? Yeah, I mean, could go for another 2 years. And again, what I spoke about a couple of weeks ago, I think what kind of like it's gonna not scare me, but it's kind of what's gonna happen is like when all this shit is done and over with, what's gonna be next for the company, because they are kind of writing on this, like you said, right? This kind of connects to a lot of like storylines, like KO and Cody Rhodes happened because of the Bloodline. The stuff what happened with Sami Zayn and the way that he took off was because of the Bloodline. Jey Uso, his star power, the way he's become a star, happened because of the Bloodline. So that's the only thing that is like, once that storyline stops, it's like what's next for the company. But that's another, but that's not gonna happen anytime soon. But yeah, I think number 2 is, I think it's a good spot for them within WWE, within the WWE verse.
What about pro wrestling storylines? Where does it rate?
Pro wrestling storylines, I'm actually kind of in line with what you said, because like everything else, like you said, did make sense, right? That NWO stuff was a big factor because it was kind of a game changer within the industry. Right? WCW took off; they almost took out WWE. That was a big thing. And then, the factor of Sting being the hero, like that was must-see TV as well. Because I remember being a kid watching that stuff, and that was great. Obviously, the feud itself, like, when it came to the climax of it, kind of affected the whole entire company itself, right? The whole Sting and Hogan and Starrcade, that was kind of like the starting point of like the downhill for WCW. And it's unfortunate, but that was still a great storyline. And who knows, like if they would have done that right, does WCW, I want to say they would exist today, but like what would have been if they would have done that right, without all the bullshit, without all the things that happened within the match. And then even the outside stuff, they're trying to blame Sting for that. I thought that was fucking corny. Like Bischoff and Hogan trying to blame Sting. It was like, the fuck? Like, how do you expect him not to like be like hesitant about this shit, because you guys are fucking snakes? So like that was a little kind of, and then the whole thing about Kenny Omega, the rise of Kenny Omega, I agree with that, because that alone kind of put New Japan on the spotlight. Like, oh shit, people started watching New Japan. Oh wait, New Japan is really good. Oh, I didn't know. A lot of that had to do with the Bullet Club stuff, had to do with Kenny Omega. And by far, I still believed that Kenny Omega was the best leader within the Bullet Club. Like, if he was to talk about leaders, probably he has to. I think he was probably the best leader because of what it did for not only the company, but for the entire industry. So those are actually good picks. I think those first 3 over the Bloodline stuff, I think that's a very good argument to have, because again, right, the Bloodline stuff has been going. It has its ups and downs, but like if you used to really pick it apart, it's it has its flaws, but then also has its upbringing. It has its best segments, right, within like the WWE. Like if you talk about we're breaking down like, hey, what's been your best segment within the last 3 years? Probably a lot of that is going to be the Bloodline stuff. So I mean, it's definitely up there.
All right. Had one more question, but I'll see if Krssi is coming back. But what do you guys think in the chat? Where does the Bloodline storyline, the Bloodline saga, ranks among the greatest pro wrestling storylines of all time? We got Power Driver Finisher who says, I'ma just have to wait till the story finishes to say for sure. But nostalgic, of course, it's Austin. We also got Safet who says WCW almost put WWF/E out of business. We also got Alex Powell who says, what about Austin getting hit by a car story, pal? Yeah, that was all part of the Austin
That was all right.
McMahon.
Yeah, that was part
Triple
of
H
that.
got involved, Rikishi got involved, Rock got involved, Mankind got involved. But see, that was how you knew that was the number one storyline because of how many people they had involved in it. All the top stars were involved in the Austin McMahon storyline, and that made it bigger and made it more impactful. Something that I wish AEW would learn. If you want to make something the central focus, the centerpiece storyline in your company, you got to make it that by pulling some more people.
And if you really think about it, because you do actually make a good point when it comes to that, because Triple H doesn't become the star without that, because once he turned heel, left the DX, he did become a world champion. And this was all before him and Stephanie hooked up, before anybody says anything. So if it created stars like it did, The Rock, obviously probably your biggest star, because of more so, at least outside of wrestling, the biggest star that he created within the company, and he got on his outside ventures, and obviously he's the biggest star when it comes to that aspect. Somebody that started in WWE, left, became his own thing, right? And I think that's why it's a little bit different when I compare him and Austin, because Austin within WWE was the biggest star, and kind of stood there within the industry. He didn't try to do what The Rock did. I think that's why it's a little bit different. That kind of conversation is a little bit different, but I mean, created a lot of storylines, created a lot of stars. Mick Foley doesn't win the title without that. I think if that doesn't exist, the whole McMahon and kind of being against all that shit, there's no way Mankind, Mick Foley becomes a WWE
household name.
Because he was already favorable. He was very likable, but WWE champion was never a fucking
option.
It was never a thought, and then they did it, and he won it multiple times. So,
all in the midst of that. All in the midst of that storyline. Krssi, I wanted to ask you very quickly because I see you're busy.
Sorry.
Before we get
my mother keeps calling me. So sorry.
No worries. Before we get to
she knows the time that I feel. I'm like, Mom, I'm doing something. Please stop calling me. Oh, one more thing. I'm like, oh my God. Sorry.
Who do you think Paul Heyman has the best dynamic with between Roman Reigns, CM Punk, or Brock Lesnar?
Ooh, that's hard. Oh my, because all of them are all different though. I'm gonna go Roman as he's the wise. I think the wise man is one of his best.
I do agree. That Roman is my favorite. I loved him and Punk. Him and Brock just seem like soulmates. But just there's something about there's an added element of his ability to kind of express emotion with just facial expressions. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to say as much.
And remember him going to go get Roman too. He had to convince Roman about this. He went and got Roman. The other guys really didn't have to go to him per se. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Josh, what about you? Who do you think he has the best dynamic with? Heyman.
I probably would say Roman, just because of Paul Heyman. I do believe Roman kind of got out of his shell. That makes any type of sense, right? I think Roman. There was always an ability of Roman, if you was to give him a chance, I think he could do great things. And I think there was even the whole period of the big dog period, which a lot of people were not in favor of. There was times where he's not reading script promos. He was actually pretty good. He was convincing when he talked. It's when you gave him scripts, you gave him stuff to remember. That's where he struggled with. when it came to Paul Heyman, I feel like the dynamic not only on screen, but I felt like him learning from Paul, or like just being like calmer, being looser. That's brought another element to things, right? And I think
And he didn't even care about what everyone else thought. Like,
yeah, so like
with everything,
with him and Punk, I thought him and Punk was solid. The only thing I just didn't feel like it was like long enough for me to like really harbor to say like, oh yeah, this is like better than Brock. I think if I was to rank it, it's Roman, Brock, and Punk.
Yeah.
Like that's how I would do it, just because like I think him and Punk are pretty solid, but I just think we didn't get really enough of it. And by the time that we did, what happened. Like, Punk wasn't the biggest star, and then he ended up leaving, So it's one of those things where, it wasn't bad. I just felt like we could have gotten more out of it. We just didn't get enough of it. And now obviously with him and Brock, I mean, that just seems like the safest bet if somebody was to say, oh, him and Brock. It's a different dynamic because Brock didn't do a lot of talking when it came to Paul. Paul was the one that was doing a lot of the talking. When Brock did do talking, I think Brock got better during the later years, like the last recent years, because Brock just seemed more loose. Again, same situation where Brock seemed looser. He seemed more like himself. Like he didn't just feel like, oh, just go out there, be dominant, don't say nothing. Because when we got that period where he was, when he conquered The Undertaker, Brock didn't really talk at all. It was mostly Paul Heyman. So that was a different kind of dynamic. That worked because Paul Heyman was doing the talking. Paul Heyman was doing the job of a manager. What we kind of expect from managers, when managers could talk, they speak for the heel. They speak for the person who can't talk. So that was a little bit. I think that's why it's very different. And then when it comes to the dynamic between him and Roman, it's a lot different because Roman held his own once he got with Paul. Like his talking gotten so much better, gotten more comfortable. And then Paul, like you kind of saw more of the characteristics of Paul when it came to Roman. Like every time he was scared or like being a kiss ass or like just sounding like a little bitch. Like, yes, my tribal chief, I'll do anything for you. Like you saw more of that with Roman. So I think, yeah, I would go with Roman.
So we're all in agreement there. Let's move on to the saga of Jade Cargill's injury.
Is it real or not?
WWE ran an injury storyline for Jade Cargill on last Friday's episode of SmackDown, and there are conflicting reports on if she's actually hurt or not. It was previously reported by Dave Meltzer that Cargill was really injured and would be out of action for a minimum of 3 months. Wow. However, he added the actual injury was being kept secret. WWE had reported a deep lumbar paraspinal muscle contusions, a bruised kidney, a sprained MCL in her right knee, a tibia plateau bone bruise on her right knee, and facial lacerations. PW Insider reports that the claims that Cargill is really injured are 100% incorrect. Cargill's attack on SmackDown was all storyline, according to PW Insider, and she is healthy. The injuries WWE announced were to put over the attack and set up a future feud. Dave Meltzer had a follow-up report on the injury to Cargill, stating in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, "We've gotten 3 different versions of the story from those in WWE. One was that, as is usual the case with the parking lot attacks, that it's a storyline cover for a real injury. However, this one has been kept secretive. One person in WWE mentioned to us that it seems like nobody, including her friends, know what the injury actually is or why it happened. Another higher up said 100% that she is injured and the stories denying it are false. Another version is that the injury was created to cover for a political backstage issue." So I will go to you, Miss Krssi Love.
Political backstage issue? What did that even mean?
Well, I mean, when I heard that part of the report, I did think of what Jonathan Coachman has recently said on his podcast. And as with everything said by Jonathan Coachman and his new podcast host, Vince Russo,
Throw a whole bunch of salt on that. Empty the bottle on that shit. Not a grain of salt. Empty the whole bottle of salt on it. But Jonathan Coachman says that he's heard from people within WWE that Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair don't get along with each other backstage. But he's the only person who said that. There's been nothing to confirm that at all. But my question to you, Miss Krssi Love, do you believe Jade Cargill is injured, or do you think this is all a work?
I think it's a work. Get everyone talking. Her and Bianca not getting along, that's some real far-fetched shit, I feel like. Because what happened when she first got here and they was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have Bianca like babysit her and like, you know, Naomi, all of them like be like all three of you guys are besties, and then now they are they mad because they got to color coordinate each outfit, and Bianca makes all her stuff, and then you know Jade likes to have like more flashy and more like cosplay stuff, and Bianca be like, nah girl, I don't do that.
Like, I don't do that cosplay shit, girl.
And she doesn't do it. Like she said, I've heard her say like she does not like she's trying to get it because you know Jade loves cosplay. And Bianca just like, yeah, girl, that's not my thing. That's not my ministry. I make my own merch. I make my own shit. Like, yeah. Maybe that's
I had the whole argument with
she should try it, you know.
I think it was
no, she has. They did that when they were in Saudi. They were
but the whole thing, like that's what I had the whole argument with Romeo. Bianca did not have on a Deadpool inspired outfit. She had on an outfit that she designed. It was red and it was black, like Jade, but Jade was a cosplay of Deadpool, while hers was just a red and black costume with her logo on it. And that's what I told Romeo. Romeo was trying to say, "Oh no, they both got on the same thing." I was like, "No, they don't. No, they don't."
They had like certain like what do you call that? Designs, like the legs were the same, but the upper parts were different, and which you could actually take that either way, because with the multiverse Deadpools, they all had different kind of looks.
Okay, Josh, now you're gonna go in depth.
So you could kind of get away with it when it comes to that, you could say, but nobody's like really focusing on that. Like if you don't know anything about Deadpool, then that's not gonna come to your mind. They did have matching colors. They did have matching certain things that did match. Jade had the belt, the actual belt that Deadpool uses. Bianca didn't. So there were things that you could see, like, and which I think it's fine. I'm like, if Bianca like certain things, there's nothing bad with that. It's just how people roll sometimes. I don't know, like that fucking Jonathan Coachman. I think he's for a guy that I'm like, oh, I kind of respected the last like year or so. I'm like, bro, like you're a piece of shit, like, because I don't understand why you do shit like this. Like he takes certain things and he runs with it. Like the whole thing about Jade and Bianca getting along, I don't believe that at all, because I don't see anything that says that. I mean, don't get me wrong, people who are professional and they don't like each other, they'll still find a way to make it work, right? So it's not, I'm not saying like, oh, I don't believe it one bit, but I'm like, it could be a thing, but if nobody else is saying it, I'm just like, where the fuck are you getting this from? Who the fuck told us? And then also the way that he left, the way he left WWE, he was on the outs with WWE because he has a vendetta against them because he didn't get paid when he got fired from the pandemic. Like he didn't get paid. So he has like some kind of gripe with WWE, which I'm not saying like, oh, now he's gonna make up shit because of that. But he hasn't.
Once you get a show with Vince Russo, I know you're a fuckboy.
Well, Vince Russo, out of all people, and now
honestly, I just said it to give clarification to that part of the report to Krssi. I don't think we need to be talking about Jonathan. Let's just talk about Jade Cargill.
You know, but even so, he's talking about like working with JD for NY. You know how JD for NY is, so that kind of tells you where he's going with all his bullshit. With Jade,
okay. I'm gonna put my foot down now, Josh. We're definitely not talking about JD from NY on this show. Let's just talk about Jade Cargill and the injury.
No,
do you believe it or
not? To be honest, it's fucking confusing.
Yeah,
because it's like I'm trying to. Why is there 3 different stories for something that's so fucking simple? If she's injured, just say she's injured. There's nothing wrong with that, right? If she's not injured, the storyline. I mean,
just say I messed up the whole story. I didn't know what y'all was doing. You needed a stronger person on there, and
but
you
also
wanted to prevail in it. That's it.
but then also, you know what it is with the if it's storyline, part of me is like, oh, she's not injured. That's good. That's a good thing. On the other hand, me personally, I just think that's kind of not a good thing, because I'm like, why would you just write her off and this could have really benefited her? Why did you take her out of the match?
That's true. Because she could have probably showed her strong suit and made her start first.
I stand by this. I really thought she was the one that could benefit the most from this because of the hot tag. I thought she could have really showed out in this kind of matchup. And if she did great things, people would usually be talking about that. And they just wrote her out. Bayley is not a bad replacement. Don't get me wrong. I think Bayley is great, but it was one of those things where I'm like, if it's storyline, then kind of tells me that you just don't have confidence with her.
Yep.
So I mean, if she's actually injured, I probably would be more comfortable. Like, all right, you wrote her off because she's injured. I just don't understand why is there such a discourse about it. Like, oh, we're trying to be secret about it. We're trying. It's what's the end goal of this? Like, why do you need to make up 3 different stories about this? And it's just weird to me. I don't think she's injured.
I think Triple H is the one that told her that she was not going to be in the War Games.
I honestly want to believe it's storyline, just because again we haven't got real confirmation. Even I think Sports Kita got some flack because they did an article, and I don't know, I didn't see the article, but I know Sean Ross Sapp called him out on it. He was pretty pissed with them about it because a wrestling group basically shared a link from Sports Kita, and they basically said like, oh, that there's word that Jade had cancer. And I'm just like, where the fuck did this come? Like, why is there people doing shit like this? So basically, Sean Ross Sapp not only called out the group, but he called out Sports Kita because he's like, what the fuck is this, guys? Like, what the fuck are you doing that this narrative is out there? Like, what the fuck are you guys doing? I don't know if this article was taken down or not. I know that was one thing, but I was like very within the week that it happened, that came out there, but obviously that's not true. I mean, that's a big fucking story. Like, you're not gonna cover that up if that was legit. And me, I think it's storyline. I want to believe it's storyline. I'm stick with that. I think it's storyline because they are teasing like, oh, who attacked Jade?
She might help out tonight,
right? And then obviously there's a storyline off of that, because honestly, if she's out for 3 months and they're teasing it, it's not gonna be nothing when she comes back. It's just you're gonna lose momentum off of that. I think it's storyline. I just think the first thing that they reported, like, oh, she had like a what was it, like a messed up spine and laceration. I'm like,
they listed like 6 different injuries. So.
Bro, like you just did the whole SpongeBob body cast thing. The guy was like, oh, I broke, and then he fell off the steps like the fish that had like the body cast. That's how you made Jade sound like. And I'm like, guys, like, come on. We clearly saw she got fucked up. You don't need to name everything. Just say she's injured and she's out indefinitely. Very simple.
I'm gonna say that she is injured. I think that she is injured only because I think that all of this news about the conflicting reports, and then it comes out that it was all a storyline. That looks bad on WWE. It looks like you pulled Jade because you don't believe in her to be good in this matchup. So I'm going with the belief that this is an injury. So,
and then honestly, you kind of make obviously everybody was blaming Dave for this, and I'm like, Dave wasn't the one that reported this, guys. It was multiple outlets, and they actually sticking by it. Like Fightful is sticking by the report that she's actually legit injured. PW Insider, they're sticking by, hey, we were told that she's not legit injured, so we're sticking with that. You're kind of creating a discourse when it comes to that, because I'm like, obviously one story is real, one story is not. So which one is fucking real? And unfortunately, if WWE was to come out and say either or, it's just obviously they're gonna have to go with the angle like, oh, she's injured because of this. Like they have to stick within their storyline. But now they're in the situation where they can't really say nothing after that, because then that's gonna ruin everything. If she's not injured, then she's not injured. Then you fuck that up completely, or whatever you're trying to do. So it's a fucking mess. and though it didn't need to happen. Like this whole thing didn't need to happen, and I don't understand why it went as far as it did right now. I just don't like.
Hey, whatever WWE needs to do to make a story. But let's talk about more news as John Cena's retirement tour will run through WWE Elimination Chamber 2025. WWE has confirmed that Cena will be appearing on the March 1st, 2025 pay-per-view in what is being billed as his last time ever in the ring in Toronto. Cena has announced that the 2025 will be his last year and will work around 40 dates. He has thus far been confirmed for Raw's Netflix premiere, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania 41, and now Elimination Chamber. In the latest Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said that Cena will likely be working most of the big shows in 2025. He predicted that the shows will be bigger draws than WWE is already getting during their most successful period in history. It was noted that the Elimination Chamber, which would normally be at a venue of 20,000 capacity, will be at the Rogers Center in Toronto, which holds 41,000. Dave Meltzer said he's going to be working most of the big shows this upcoming year. I think it's 35, 40 dates. Probably he's going to run 35 different markets during 2025, and everyone maybe except for New York, maybe he'll do multiple shows, but most of those 35 are going to be John Cena's last time in San Francisco, Seattle, Dallas, whatever. That's what the year is going to be, a whole bunch of farewells. So looking forward to that. We'll talk more about Cena's final year and final opponents as the weeks go on. But PW Insider also had reports on a couple of returns to WWE. The PW Insider reports that WWE is currently planning to bring Alexa Bliss back to television soon after she has been out for nearly 2 years. Bliss, who last appeared at the 2023 Royal Rumble, gave birth to a baby girl last November. Since then, she has also had a number of health issues, including skin cancer and multiple postpartum health issues. However, she noted in a recent Twitter post that she's all good now. WWE is reportedly planning to bring her back for WrestleMania season, which could be as soon as the 2025 Royal Rumble, if not sooner. Either way, she is expected to be back after the holiday season. WWE is currently working on how and when she will be back. Meanwhile, another woman who gave birth and has been out of action is Carmella. She has been out of action from WWE television since March of last year after she took time off due to her pregnancy at the time. She later revealed that she has been dealing with a condition called drop foot after giving birth. The condition is a gout abnormality that usually happens for a variety of reasons, mostly commonly due to nerve injury. Fightful Select reports that there's been no change in her WWE status since developing the condition, and it was noted that there is currently no talk of her return, although she would be welcomed back with open arms if and when she does. So we will keep you up to date on Alexa Bliss as well as Carmella's return to the WWE in the weeks to come. But moving, yeah, a lot. Only Krssi Love can know what it is like after pregnancy, and then you don't know what it's like to try to get back into a wrestling ring after.
Right, exactly. Like that's another thing on your list that you're trying to like enjoy being a mother. Then you got to lose weight. Then you got now exercise and do all these other things. And then you got health issues. It's too much stuff. Too much. Poor things. Oh my God.
Too much indeed. But WWE Raw this week, the show featured Bianca Belair defeating Nia Jax to win the Women's War Games Advantage match. Thanks in large part to an assist from Bayley. World Heavyweight Champion Gunther kicked off the show, but was interrupted by the number one contender, Damian Priest, who acts what happens to a ring general when he gets beat by a guy from the streets. This led to a brawl between Gunther and Priest, with Priest standing tall after delivering the Razor's Edge on Gunther through the announce table. The Judgment Day beat the War Raiders to retain the World Tag Team titles. Ludwig Kaiser defeated Braun Breaker via disqualification thanks to interference from Sheamus. A huge brawl broke out post-match with all three men until GM Adam Pearce announced that it will be Breaker versus Kaiser versus Sheamus for the Intercontinental Championship at Survivor Series. And the New Day picked up their most soul-crushing loss so far as they lost to the Alpha Academy in 1 minute. Post-match, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods got into a heated argument where Kofi said the reason why Woods wasn't a singles champion is because he's not good enough, while Woods told Kofi that he blew his one big chance in 6 seconds to Brock Lesnar ahead of the New Day's 10-year anniversary next Monday. What did you think about Monday Night Raw and all of the heated argument between the New Day? What did you think, Krssi?
My thing, okay, so with the New Day, I was like, okay, did they sit back and was like, yo, we're gonna dig like real deep and like make this like some real stuff. We're gonna go through the like I'm gonna cut you to the white meat now, and then we're gonna just turn it and just like make it real. Like that was a real heated, like real life, like brother versus brother like argument, if that makes sense.
That was one of the best WWE segments of the year. Like, like that might be the best WWE segment not involving the Bloodline this year.
Okay, I could see that. I'm curious to see what they're going to do Monday. Like, how are we going to have? Right, like, is Big E coming back to like resolve something? Like, how are we having a New Day celebration without Big E? Like, what's happening?
Well, to take some of the news, mix it into our conversation here. Advanced Television reported that a 10-year celebration for the New Day was going to go down on next Monday's episode of Monday Night Raw, the December 2nd episode, taking place from Everett, Washington. WWE is celebrating 10 years of the group with the following additional content. It's a 10-year photo gallery taking a trip down memory lane with a photo gallery of the New Day's evolution featuring iconic moments and historic championship victories. The New Day's best matches relive their most spectacular matches in a compilation on WWE's YouTube channel. Exclusive sit-down interview here directly from via YouTube from Kofi, Xavier, and Big E as they reflect on stories from their legendary experience. PW Insider had several early backstage notes for Monday's episode. Several SmackDown talents were set to be at the taping, including Cody Rhodes, Solo Sikoa, and Jimmy Uso. However, it's unknown if they will actually appear on the show or in dark matches. Big E is also planned to be at the episode this Monday for the celebration of the 10-year anniversary of the New Day. But I will ask you, Miss Krssi Love, we'll start with you. What do you think is the legacy of the New Day amidst all this dissension going on between Kofi and Xavier?
It would give you like the Freebirds, the 3-man tag group that interchanged the belts. Like, this week is going to be Xavier and Kofi. Next week is going to be Big E and Xavier. You know, one of their best trios tag teams that they've had for that company.
I would say the simple legacy for the New Day and the Shield is for this newer generation, DX and the NWO. Like, really, like, in this generation, the past 10, 15, 20 years, there really hasn't been, like, two prominent, iconic stables running at the same time. And we didn't have it in this generation, but they were basically, like, a couple of years apart, where the New Day starts in 2014, and in early 2014, the Shield breaks up. But the Shield made 3 legitimate major top stars in the promotion, but the New Day stuck together and built stories and feuds and a whole rise up the card off of their unbreakable bond with one another. So I think that their legacy is really, really strong, but it's really kind of as the most endearing and everlasting group that we've had in WWE. I don't remember the last time we had a stable in WWE
that has lasted this long.
Bullet Club, New Japan got like 5 or 6 stables that's been around for a decade. But WWE, this never happens. 10 years of one group, like, that's their legacy right there.
I mean, you're right, because look, you can't keep stables. Like, stables don't last very long, and I guess this is one of their they're one of their biggest money makers, I feel like.
Yeah. Josh, I was going to ask you, where do you think the New Day rank among the greatest WWE stables of all time?
Definitely a top 5 stable.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of, if you really look at their accomplishments, you know, you look at the amount of times they won the tag titles, not only winning the amount of times they won it, but they also have the longest reigning tag team championship runs in company
That's
history.
true. I forgot.
You also made 2 world champions, Kofi and Big E. They were world champions. So I would say easily top 5. And then even if you factor in the merch, I mean, that's unmatched because for years, they were one of the biggest merch movers in the company. So easily top 5.
I think personally, they're on the Mount Rushmore of.
I would definitely put them on Mount Rushmore. Yep.
I would say.
I wouldn't even go as far as to say top 3. I wouldn't even go as far as to say top 3.
I was going to say top 3, but I think that it's really close between these 4, where I can see you leave out New Day, put them at the 4 spot, and then this would be the top 3. But I would say the Mount Rushmore would be DX.
DX, yeah, that's number 1 for me.
The Shield. Evolution. New Day.
You see, that's a good one. Because even with Evolution, if you look at all the accolades within each guy, I mean, that's
big. I didn't even think I would have even.
I literally thought of DX and the Shield, and I was gonna say New Day's top 3, and then I thought of Evolution. I was like,
yeah,
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, because even with DX, I think DX is a different kind of animal because with DX, it was so much of the time that they were in, right? And because of DX, they were like the big stable that carried the company. So that was that plays a factor because even when you lose Shawn Michaels, Triple H took over and there was no guarantee it was going to work. And I think it got better.
It got better when he left. Yeah,
it got better. And I mean, that's credit to all the people that was involved when it comes to that because they needed to make it work. It needed to be better than Shawn Michaels. There's nothing taken away from what Shawn Michaels did or didn't do. It was the fact that that's what you really needed for that to work, and they did because they did off the wall shit. Even at time they went to WCW, like that's unheard of. You know what I mean? So they did. I think that's why it's a little bit different when it comes to that. Like that's why, like they're in that because of what it meant at that time. When it comes to like Evolution and the Shield, I think it's more of like not only what they did, but each person, right? The Shield made 3 world champions and they made multiple-time world champions. And now they have 2 of the biggest stars in their company with Seth and Roman, even though Roman, I think they're not even close, to be honest. Seth and Roman, I think Roman and Seth was like way behind when it comes to that. But there's still 2 stars that they created, world champions. And then Evolution, I mean, there's really no argument to that. Batista, Orton, Triple H, Ric Flair, the gold standard right there alone. I mean,
and then Triple H, that just shows you about Triple H because he was in two stables.
He was in 2 of them. He was in 2 of them.
Yeah. He took over when one had to take care of themselves, and then he put this other group together of a group of guys that needed to be established. We had one that was already,
and this was during the time of the Reign of Terror. So I mean, it kind of tells you like, Triple H wasn't as bad as we say he is.
No, he was. Anyway, moving on.
You see, Trips. I was trying to give you some credit, but fuck it.
Yeah, we really did that.
WWE.
But I do agree. Like, I think that's a good top 4. I think that's a strong top 4, to be honest with you.
Yeah. WWE has also unveiled a new women's secondary title in the Women's Intercontinental Championship. GM Adam Pearce came out before last Monday's Raw and announced the companion to the recently announced Women's United States Championship. Pearce said that the tournament to determine the new champion will kick off on this Monday's episode of Raw. So, Krssi Love,
giving it off to the lady of the podcast. Who is your favorite to win Raw's WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship?
I just have to say that this is a beautiful belt. I think
is.
it looks way
It looks like the old Intercontinental title.
It does. I think it does look. It feels like it's paying homage with a little bit of the hint of the blue in there, to the old school belt. I think it looks way better than the United States Dipset title, but hey, whatever. Which is white as well. As far as this, they just should have just did this together. Like this whole like y'all could have been there together. Y'all do Adam Pearce and Aldis. Y'all could have been in the ring. Y'all could have picked a day on SmackDown or whichever one. Or y'all could have did one on Friday and then y'all could have been there together and be happy to announce, hey, we have this belt. Like, why? This was what, 2 weeks ago that they did the girls one? Dumb.
Yeah. Pretty dumb. Agreed.
So like when everyone saw it, was like, okay, great, yay. When you
they didn't even do it on the show. They announced it before the show started. Who's your favorite to win the title, though?
Okay, so for this title, who could use this belt? And it's on Monday. It's on for Mondays, right?
Yeah, for Raw.
Okay, so for Raw, who do we have on Raw right now?
I got my pick.
Chelsea's going for the United States one, right?
Yeah, she's on SmackDown.
Okay, she's SmackDown. Okay, so for Monday, maybe Valkyria, that girl, her.
That's a good shout. I'm gonna go with Dakota Kai.
Damn it! I was like, I got my pick.
She should be. Yeah, that's a good one. Dakota
Kai, I think it's a good spot. The only downside to her would be the injuries. Just because, unfortunately, she does have a lot of those, but she's a good pick. I think she probably is the one that needs the most. And then also, she's really over as a babyface. She's very likable, very over as a babyface. Valkyria is not a bad pick. The problem is that she just doesn't have what Dakota has.
Okay.
And that's the crowd being
Bird Lady doesn't have a personality.
Yeah. And the crowd's not behind her. So it was like, it's a tough sell. She's a great worker in the ring. She's fantastic in the ring, but if you just don't have that charisma, unfortunately, that's just the kind of spot you're gonna be in. You're gonna be a great worker, but that's about it in WWE. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll stick with Dakota. I could say Io. I think Io will be a good one, but I think Dakota needs more. She doesn't need it, but also I think like, if you want credibility with feeling like, hey, just have a new one, a person that needs a championship. I think Dakota is the perfect spot, the perfect person for that. Like just like when people are saying Chelsea Green could be the United States Women's Champion, I think that's a good pick. But because I think Chelsea would be over dramatic, like if you used to give her the belt, if she was to lean into like a kind of like an American kind of like gimmick, I think she could pull that off very well because she'll be super fucking annoying. So I think that would work for her perfectly. So I think both situations, again, I'm not in favor of the mid-card titles at all, but I'm like, if I have to pick, I think those two ladies.
He's not in favor.
I think those two ladies will be good. Would be in a good spot for that title. Like if you're giving opportunities and you want to create new champions, these two are perfect because they don't have those accolades yet.
Okay.
Drew McIntyre has been out of action ever since losing to CM Punk inside Hell in a Cell at WWE Bad Blood, but could return soon. PW Insider reports that WWE has been discussing creative plans for McIntyre, especially when it comes to when and how to bring him back. There have been pitches and talks about what the direction will be. McIntyre took a hiatus from WWE after needing 16 staples in his head following the Hell in a Cell with CM Punk, as well as attending to family matters. Coming off of the heels of his fantastic feud with CM Punk, who do you think Drew McIntyre should face at next year's WrestleMania 41? Josh.
My question would be, Is he coming back as a face or a heel?
Heel.
I mean, Drew's definitely a heel.
He should be a heel.
Yeah, he should be a heel, right? Who would be the? I don't know. Fuck.
I'm gonna go with John Cena.
Oh, you see, you see. That's why we got SP3 here. That's a good pick.
One of the guys that like put him put him out.
Yeah, no, just a guy, just a top baby face who he can feud with, where he still is having a high profile match. I saw some people online. Some people online were saying Sheamus, and I'm like, nah, that's a downgrade.
The talking segments would be great too.
Not Sheamus.
I like Sheamus as much as the next person. But he's a mid card. He's a mid carder right now, regardless.
He's definitely a mid card now. Yeah.
You know, like, and we already seen that, and I think Drew needs something prominent for WrestleMania because I think he's earned that. I think he's earned that. I do like the John Cena pick because I think with John Cena we're having like these whole things like, hey, who should be his opponent? Who should be his last opponent? And all this stuff. I think Drew would be a good spot for John Cena just because there's no speculation like, oh, John Cena's gonna go after the World Championship at WrestleMania, and I don't think you really necessarily need to do that for John Cena, especially not at WrestleMania. You don't need to do that for that. So I think Drew would be a good spot because, again, I think they could find ways to carry that feud, and then also I think because of Drew's internet game, that could be another level because, you know, John is kind of the same way, but John is he doesn't do what Drew does. Like, John just be posting up random fucking photos and shit that kind of makes you just think, like, what's he talking about? What's John doing? What's this about? Like, he's like just random when it comes to that. So I could see like John doing some funny shit when it comes to that, where he's not talking, he's not saying nothing, he's just posting pictures, and then people are gonna run with whatever's being posted.
I've also seen people saying Wade Barrett, and I'm just like, Wade Barrett, Sheamus. I'm like, that's a downgrade.
Wade is the commentator.
I don't see Wade coming back to the ring. I think he's very content with especially with all the stuff that he said. I don't see Wade coming unless it was like a big payday that he can't refuse. He's not coming back to wrestling.
I think it would be a good story. I just don't think it's a WrestleMania story. But.
Yeah, you don't need it for WrestleMania. You could do it like at one of those PLEs like overseas. Like, I think that would be a good spot for them. And I think it will mean more like it did like in the UK. I think that would be fun. Like in Europe, that would be fun. I think that's more that than WrestleMania. WrestleMania doesn't need that.
Yeah. PW Insider reports a WWE Hall of Famer will appear at Saturday night's main event, and it will be none other than the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. WWE is reportedly planning a special old school style and live presentation for the event, along with graphics and music. Thus far, Hart is the only Hall of Famer confirmed to appear at the event on Saturday, December 14th. It will be held at the Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, New York, and it will be broadcast live on NBC starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and also be simulcast on Peacock. They announced this week that WWE champion Cody Rhodes will defend against Kevin Owens on the show. Meanwhile, as we gear up for Raw on Netflix, they have some new reports in regards to that. PW Insider reports that WWE has been working hard on making sure that the first episode of Monday Night Raw on Netflix will be a successful one. The company will hold an event at Netflix headquarters on December 3rd. Cody Rhodes, The Bloodline, and Liv Morgan are all expected to attend. WWE said to be working on the creative for the first Raw on Netflix already. They want to deliver a major show. There has been talk of some superstars returning that night. When Raw goes to Netflix, it will go back to being 3 hours long, with SmackDown doing the same on the USA Network starting in 2025.
SmackDown's going to be 3 hours?
Indeed. Kill me now. WWE NXT
Lord
is how
help
we finish up some WWE covers this week. They did 632,000 viewers this week. The show featured Fallon Henley beating Tatum Paxley in the main event to retain the NXT Women's North American Championship. Post-match, Fatal Influence jumped Paxley until Gigi Dolan made her return to make the save. Trick Williams had a confrontation with number one contender Ridge Holland that was interrupted by WWE Hall of Famer Eric Bischoff, who said that he will be live on NXT next week to do something. I don't know. I don't really care. I might be watching. Tony D'Angelo defeated Shawn Spears to retain the NXT North American Championship. Post-match, he was jumped by Spears' crew. Ethan Page defeated Axiom in a very good opener to qualify for the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge. Meanwhile, you had Julia beat Kalani Jordan in a splendid sprint of a match to advance to the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge at Deadline. That event will be on December 7th, so we'll have predictions for Deadline on next week's edition of the Flagship Podcast. But that is all from WWE this week. And we got to move on over to Japan as New Japan Pro Wrestling is doing their World Tag League. We're in week 2 of the World Tag League that will finish up, I believe, sometime next week or the second week of December. Day 5 of the World Tag League featured LIJ, Shingo Takagi, and Yota Tsuji defeating Gabe Kidd and Sonata of the Bullet Club War Dogs in an absolute war in the main event. Shoto Aminu and Tamaki Honma beat Bishamon in their back-to-back upset victories in the tournament so far, while TMDK's IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Zack Sabre Jr. and Roye Uyawa picked up the win over Funky Sauce, Alex Zane, and Ryosuke Taguchi. Day 6 featured a United Empire's Hanare and Great Okan beating House of Torture's Evil and Ren Narita. TMDK, Shane Hayes, and Mikey Nichols defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi and Jado of Hontai, while LIJ's Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi defeated Taichi and Taka Michinoku of Just Four Guys. You also had Day 7, saw Bishamon defeating TMDK's ZSJ and Uyawa in the main event. Bullet Club's Kenta and Chase Owens beat LIJ, Shingo, and Tsuji, while Bullet Club War Dogs picked up the win over United Empire's Callum Newman and Jeff Cobb. Day 8 featured Hiroshi Tanahashi and Jado beating Just Four Guys in the main event. For some reason, that was the main event. I don't know why. Naito and Hiromu of LIJ defeated the Natural Classics, and House of Torture pulled off an upset win over former champions TMDK. Meanwhile, Day 9 had LIJ, Shingo, and Tsuji beating United Empire's Callum Newman and Jeff Cobb in the main event. Bullet Club's Kenta and Chase Owens defeated Uyawa and ZSJ of TMDK. And Bullet Club War Dogs beat Shooter and Honma, while Funky Sauce got the win over Bishamon in another upset victory. And in some New Japan Pro Wrestling news, a new match has been made for Wrestle Dynasty coming up on January 5th, as New Japan Pro Wrestling announced that AEW's member of the Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli, will go one-on-one with Shoto Aminu at the co-promotional event at the Tokyo Dome on January 5th. Claudio will be working as the emissary that John Moxley is sending to take care of his former young boy, Shoto Aminu. So that should be a really damn good matchup coming up on January 5th for sure. And then finally, to finish things off for what we missed this week, Krssi, Josh, we had TNA Turning Point last night. The show featured Nick Nemeth defeating Eddie Edwards in a decent main event to retain the TNA World Championship, thanks to yet another assist from John Bradshaw Layfield, who took care of the system. Masha Slamovich beat Jordan Grace in an excellent 2 out of 3 falls matchup to retain the TNA Knockouts World Championship, while Steve Macklin got revenge on Josh Alexander with a win in a physically intense no DQ war. Moose beat Laredo Kid in a solid match to retain the TNA X Division Championship. Joe Hendry won the 2024 Turkey Bowl by pinning the System's Brian Myers, who had to put on a turkey suit.
Mike Santana picked up another win over Frankie Kazarian, while Matt Riddle made his TNA debut in a surprise appearance to fill in for Trey Miguel of the Rascals. Riddle teamed with Zachary Wentz and Kushida in a losing effort to Ace Austin and TNA World Tag Team Champions, the Hardys. So good stuff there from Turning Point. Really good show, I thought, last night from TNA Wrestling. But that brings us to a close on what we missed, and we've made it to Krssi Love's favorite portion of the show, best and worst of the week and matches of the week. Krssi Love, we'll start with you. Who do you think had the best week this week?
Paul Heyman.
I mean, he got to owe a favor, but that's fair. That's fair.
This is, we'll get to that point of the line, but right now he's having a good week.
Josh?
Words? Oh, sorry.
We'll go best around, and then we'll go worst around. Josh, best.
No, best. Who had the best week this week? I don't know who had the best week.
Kyle Fletcher.
That's a good shout, too.
I can say Kyle Fletcher. I mean, he had a great match with Ospreay. He got a 5-star match. I mean, right? He got 5 and what? 5 and a quarter.
5 and a quarter. 5 and a quarter
match. I mean, I'll go. I mean, you could say, yeah. I mean, you could say Kyle Fletcher by default. I would say.
I'm gonna go with best of the week to Mercedes Moné. She shut up all those naysayers, all those haters, and she got rid of that albatross around her neck of Camille. Camille was dragging Mercedes down, and she wanted to fire her, but she had to quit because she wanted to control her own destiny. But Mercedes got rid of her ass, so she is the best of the week. Worst of the week.
That's a good one. You had that's a good one. Tony Khan and Camille.
Fair. I'm going with Ricky Starks, unfortunately.
He was my next choice.
Not for anything he did, but he is having the worst week.
Worst of the week, I got 2. I'm gonna go with Tony Khan and Effie.
Ooh.
Also fair. Also fair. A couple of good shouts here in the chat. We got I Make Beats talk about World Tag League, saying ZSJ Oyowa versus Goto and Hashi was fire. We also got I Make Beats who says Shane Hayes was pretty funny on commentary. Turkey nonstop action. And we got Safet who says best of the week, Mercedes Moné. And he says worst of the week, Tony Khan, and best of the week for Power Drive finisher, Mercedes as well. But now it is time for match of the week, where we give you our 3, 5, or 10 best matches that we saw this week. It was a busy week, so of course I have 10. I have 10 as usual. Sorry, guys.
That's cool.
I mean, it's been a while, so might as well.
Might as well do it for the road. Number 10 for me this week, we'll give it to Bobby Lashley versus Swerve Strickland from Full Gear. Number 9 for me, give it to Konosuke Takeshita versus Ricochet from Full Gear. Number 8 for me, we'll give it to Jordan Grace versus Masha Slamovich from Turning Point last night. Number 7, Steve Macklin versus Josh Alexander from Turning Point last night. Number 6, Brody King versus Darby Allin from Dynamite. Number 5, Bishamon versus LIJ from World Tag League. Then we'll go number 4, Jay White versus Hangman Adam Page from Full Gear. Number 3, John Moxley versus Orange Cassidy from Full Gear. Number 2, Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander. Top 5 women's match in North America this year. That's number 2. And number 1, Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher from Full Gear. Will Ospreay had a 5-star pay-per-view matchup. Color me shocked. Krssi Love, what's your match?
Don't talk about my man like that. Don't do that.
He does it every time. It's like his bar, his floor is 5 stars. If his ceiling is higher, how is that possible?
Listen, don't you can't.
I said it on our review, Krssi. I said it on our review. I feel bad for Kyle Fletcher because any other year his match with Will Ospreay at Full Gear would be mentioned as a match of the year candidate. I don't know if it will now because Will's had 5 to 6 other match of the year candidates this year.
Okay, fine. You want to just like be technical, whatever.
I mean, it's a good thing for Will. That's not negative for Will. That's a good thing.
We might have to go a different direction with our end of year awards, where we might have to do a vote for Will Ospreay matches before we do a match of the year voting.
Oh, it's true.
Okay.
True.
Will Ospreay match of the year and then match of the year might be 2 different options. Krssi, what's your matches of the week?
Matches of the week for me, I'm gonna go 5. Number 5, Moxley versus Cassidy. 4, Swerve and Lashley. 3, is Darby and was it Brody, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 is Mercedes and Chris Statlander, and then 1 Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay.
Good stuff. Josh?
No WWE for me. Sorry. They didn't have anything this week. So
no, number 3, I'm gonna go with Darby versus Brody King. Main event from Dynamite. Number 2, Mercedes versus Statlander. Number 1, Fletcher versus Ospreay at Full Gear.
Glad to see. We're all in agreement on what was the match of the week this week. But keep sounding off in the chat.
Oh, wait, you forgot to say, sorry. Last week we were talking about how we only had 3 matches for this pay-per-view that we're about to give our picks for. And now we have thrown together pay-per-view because we couldn't just have 3 matches. Like you said, friend, last week, you said it. You've done it again.
I said it.
You said it again.
Say we're coming up with t-shirt ideas, and SP3 was right. Should be one of our.
You definitely, because you're always correct. Because when we had like the Nakamura and Knight, I was like, oh yeah, we called this one. Like this was one of the ones we kind of called like last.
We did. I was like, watch them just put this on because they don't want to put Cody and KO on the card.
Because you have to put Cody and KO for the Saturday night main event within like 2 weeks. So whatever. So yeah. Oh, thanks, Pal Driver. Cool. But yeah. Yeah, you called that, and then we had one more match basically, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I was watching Monday Night Raw. I was like, "Here we fucking go. Here we go with the bullshit. You want to fight so damn bad? We're all gonna settle this at War Games." Oh my god!
There we go. But yes, let us know in the comments down below your matches of the week. But we're gonna close off this episode of the Tru Heel Heat flagship podcast with final predictions for WWE Survivor Series War Games. And the aforementioned United States Championship is what we'll start out with. Miss Krssi Love, who you got? LA Knight defending against Shinsuke Nakamura.
It's so unfortunate that Shinsuke Nakamura is gonna have to lose, unfortunately.
Josh?
LA Knight. I got no faith in Shinsuke. No fault to his own.
Oh,
I have no faith in Shinsuke, but this shit literally does not make fucking sense in the least bit unless Shinsuke Nakamura wins this goddamn match. You do not start a rivalry with a guy returning after fucking 7 months and 2 weeks ago and then put it on the pay-per-view and then just to have him lose? So none of this shit matters. He got a new theme song on SmackDown. He got the new look, new attire and everything. They even made his fucking pre-recorded vignettes a little bit different. All for him to lose at the pay-per-view? He's done. He's
right.
done. And I'll give up if that happens tonight. So I'm going with Nakamura for the win.
I want to say that though, SP, but I just really feel like that I have no faith behind the whole thing. So I agree with you. Like this makes no sense, but whatever. But hey, you said this last week that we're gonna have this match. So anyway, let's go to the next one, friend.
For the Intercontinental Championship, Braun Breaker defends in a triple threat against Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. Krssi?
This sucks for Sheamus and Luvic because, you know, they're going to lose. But yeah, I guess Braun, whatever.
Josh?
Oh, Braun retains.
Braun retains. I agree with you out there. For the World Heavyweight Championship, Gunther will defend against Damian Priest. Josh?
Gunther's retaining. I want to say Damian, but Damian's had the upper hand the last 2 weeks on Gunther. You know that's never a good sign.
Yeah, every week. It's just been so one-sided. Oh my god.
Yo, yeah, you know when they do that, you ready to see the writing on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Krssi?
I see Gunther.
Gunther for the win. I agree with Gunther for the win. This has been the worst feud of Gunther's WWE main roster career.
Yeah, poor thing. Yeah,
it sucks.
And it looks like he doesn't even want to do it neither, to be honest. That's the sad part.
For the women's war games, we got Team Liv Morgan, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Raquel Rodriguez, and Candice LeRae versus Team Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Bayley, Io Sky, and Naomi. Krssi?
I'm going to go with the heels for this one.
You know what? I agree with you because WWE does not want to make both war games where the heels have the advantage, and they do not want both war games where the baby faces win. So I will go with the heels here.
Right. It
Josh?
makes more sense for the heels to win anyway, though.
Not really.
No, not for this one? Okay.
I would think the baby faces winning would make more sense because all the champions are on the heel side.
Got you. Okay, makes it. You're right. Okay, true. Okay.
Josh?
I think the heels win.
And then finally, we have the men's War Games matchup. It's a one-match show, ladies and gentlemen. Who are we filling? It's the OG Bloodline, Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, and the Usos teaming up with CM Punk to versus Bronson Reed and the new Bloodlines, Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and Jacob Fatu. Krssi Love, who you got in the main event?
OG Bloodline.
Josh?
I got the OG Bloodline winning.
OG Bloodline, unanimous, get the win here. So seems like we're all on the same page with most of these predictions here. Let us know in the comments down below if you're watching us on demand who you have for your final predictions for Survivor Series. But you can also join us live here tonight on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel. We'll be live with our live watch along for WWE Survivor Series War Games. Romeo will be here. The Around the Point Network fellas will be here as well. I will be live tomorrow, 12:05 p.m. Eastern Time, with our WWE Survivor Series War Games 2024 review to break down the show incomplete. But as always, enjoy the show tonight on the Peacock or WWE Network. And of course, thank you all for joining us live here on the Flagship Podcast. Want to thank Miss Krssi Love, True Draw Josh, as well as our producer for everything they do with us on the Flagship here. Krssi Love, want to give you 6 p.m. Eastern. So, got to get your shit early. Got to get your shit in early.
And it's still
6 p.m. as in like the pre-show or like the main card starts at 6?
The main card starts at 6 p.m.
I think the other stuff starts at 4 or something like that. I heard that.
Oh, shit, yeah. Collision starts at 4.
Collision starts at 4.
Oh, man, I'm going to have a long day of wrestling.
Yep.
Collision.
Krssi,
they were smart. Okay, they was like, no, we're not gonna do this. Okay, got it. Sorry, my bad. Thank God you told me that because I would have missed it. Okay.
Gonna give you the floor, Krssi. Let everybody know where they can follow you.
Hey friends. So you can find me True Heel Krssi Love, Krssi Love _1, or just my plain old name. Myself and SP will be back this week. Sorry, it was a crazy week this week. But we were gonna do the Bear this week review, correct, friend? Yes, we're doing the Bear. Watch our Penguin review. Watch our Agatha All the Way review on our other channel. And yeah, we're just doing some crazy things and trying to get our numbers up. What are we at? Where are we at now with our numbers? How far are we away?
What, on the other channel?
No, on this channel. How many numbers are we away from our goal for the end of the year?
We are 700 subscribers away.
Okay, tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend, another tell a friend. That's what we need. We got 30 days to get this together, friends. Okay, thanks.
We got 30 days on the dot now. It's 31 days left for us to hit our 20K goal. So help us out. Tell a friend to tell.
It's the holiday seasons, friend. We need super chats. We have kids, you know. Josh has a wedding to do. Like, we got shit to do. Okay, thanks.
Josh, let everybody know where they can follow you.
You can follow. Oh shit. You can follow me, JamPunk321, Twitter and Instagram. And I'll be back tomorrow for the Survivor Series review. I'll be on for that.
Boom. Good to hear. But yes, follow the folks. You can follow me on the Twitter machine at Tru Heel SP3. You can follow the gang, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Tru Heel Heat. Patreon.com/Tru Heel Heat. $3 a month gets you exclusive content. The best place to support us when we are not live here, and check out all the great content we got over there. Might do a review for TNA Turning Point over on our Patreon, so stay tuned for that. And like I said before, join us live here, 6 p.m. Eastern time, for our Survivor Series War Games, or watch along with Romeo and the gang. Want to thank Miss Krssi Love, True Jaw Josh, producer Baby Seth, all of you who joined us live and send those super chat donations. Thank you so much for supporting us. Happy birthday to Naomi. I see that in the chat. Happy birthday to everyone celebrating. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Black Friday. Happy Cyber Sunday. Go do some shopping. Prepare for Christmas. And I will see you all tomorrow. For all of us, it is me, your Tru Heel Phenom, SP3. This has been Tru Heel Heat 305. Don't remember the title. Oh, Absolute Pettiness.
I'm about to say, it was pet.
We are signing off until next time.
Later.